morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday of this week. Madam Clerk.
So the first item of business for the May 23rd, 2017 agenda is a closed session item pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Personnel Matter, Conference with Labor Negotiators, Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations. Human Resources Director, possible board action.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be actually going into closed session.
I don't know.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for Calaveras County. At this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Welcome, folks. At this time, we were in a closed session. Madam Clerk.
Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Personnel Matter, Conference with Labor Negotiators, Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association's negotiations. No action was taken.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain public comment. Madam Clerk. No public comment today?
Public comment is after recognition and acknowledgements.
I'm
Chair?
I was making up for this morning.
So item 2 is from Public Works, and it's to adopt a proclamation declaring May 21st through 27th, 2017 as National Public Works Week in the County of Calaveras.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much. I get the privilege of presenting this today. It's a proclamation. Sorry, guys. It's a proclamation declaring May 21st to May 27th, 2017 as National Public Works Week in the County of Calaveras. Whereas public works services provided in our county are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services are of vital importance to sustainable communities and to the health, safety, and well-being of the people of Calaveras County. And whereas such facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees who are responsible for and must plan, design, build, operate, and maintain the transportation, solid waste system, and facilities essential to serve our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest of citizens, civic leaders, and children in the county to gain knowledge of, maintain a progressive interest in, and understand the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, well, I guess we actually have a motion before we do that, Mr. Chair.
We do.
My apologies.
Not a problem. All right. Public comment on the proclamation.
Ms. Answer?
Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jeff is on his way up, but I'll quickly say we wanted to thank all of our public works employees for all of their hard work the last couple of years with all of the disasters we've been enduring, and just keeping our prime mission of taking care of the public as our primary goal. We just wanted to thank all of our staff and engineering, transit, integrated waste, road crews, everyone. So just to say thank you.
Thank you. I would concur. You guys are doing a fabulous job.
Cliff Edson, San Andreas. I would concur with that. In the past couple of years, we went through the Butte Fire and had tremendous amount of destruction to our roads and our landscaping, actually. And Public Works reacted to that and responded to it in a very positive way with very little funding and very little resources. They used everything they could to make sure our public was safe, and they continue to do that to this day. They work efficiently. They've become a very good working unit, and under the leadership of Jeff Krovitz, and I believe that they're doing the very best they can for what we have, and this is actually pretty appropriate for today, considering that there are so many disaster-related issues within the county for what we're about to embark on. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Brock Estes, Valley Springs. Speaking just on empirical evidence, I happen to live on Laurent, right up above Harper, so that's the portion that's being worked on now in laying new water piping, which I assume is Department of Public Works. Might just be water company, so I could be entirely wrong. And I just want to say empirically, they're working like crazy right now. Every day they're out there and they have to dig up the whole street. However, when they first began the project a few weeks ago, it looked like there was not much coordination because guys would arrive and they would seemingly have nothing to do, and they would stand there, and of course sound carries in my valley, and I would literally hear them talking and joking for 2.5 hours. I mean, not doing a lick of work. Now they're working like crazy, so I'm sure it's simply something to do with the orders and maybe not everything being there or somebody not on the right page. So it's a double-edged sword here, and I'm not even sure it's Public Works. It might be Water District because it is laying water pipe. But I'm seeing both things, hard work and initially some confusion about when to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I would entertain a motion. So moved. Moved by Supervisor Mills. Second by Supervisor Clapp. No further public comment. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no.
Now, sorry.
Close, real close. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Go ahead.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim May 21st to 27th, 2017 as National Public Works Week in the County of Calaveras. And we call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day in our health, safety, and comfort and quality of life. Thank you very much.
Mr. Krovitz, I think there's more than just one person in your department. Are they here? There we go. Come on, folks.
I got the poster.
Can you come over on this side, face the camera, please?
Thank you very much. And the supervisors that made it to the booths at the fair, thank you also for working the booths for Public Works. We think we'll get that presence to be greater and greater as time goes on.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Item
Madam Clerk,
3
I'm sorry.
is, from the library to proclaim May 21st through 28th, 2017 as Arnold Branch Library Week in Calaveras County.
Supervisor Mills.
Thank you. This is a proclamation recognizing the week of May 21 through 28, 2017 as Arnold Branch Library Week in Calaveras County. Whereas libraries change the lives in their communities, campuses, and schools, and whereas the Arnold Branch Library provides valuable services that enrich and enhance the well-being of our community through the pursuit of information, knowledge, creativity, and other forms of individual expression, and whereas the Arnold Branch Library is more than a repository of books and has evolved and adapted to encompass new technologies and meet the changing needs of our community, and whereas the Arnold Branch Library meets the ever-growing needs of patrons and visitors by providing innovative and essential services, fostering a love of reading in patrons of all ages and walks of life, providing academic support to students, teaching literacy skills to adults, providing internet access 24/7, 365, and whereas the Arnold Branch Library serves as a safe haven and connection to social support for our most vulnerable citizens, and whereas the Arnold Branch Library opened its doors in Arnold in 1967, and Modest Beginnings moved to a new state-of-the-art facility built in 1997, and has continually improved the materials collection and technology to grow with the community, and whereas the support of local residents, visitors, and the friends of the library, the Arnold Branch Library has faithfully supported the Ebbets Pass community for 50 years.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Nancy Giddens, County Librarian. We know that every successful venture has people who make it a success. And over the 50 years that we celebrate today and this week, many people have worked to make the Arnold Branch the success that it is. And although I've only been here just a little over a year, it quickly became clear to me that the current success of the Arnold Branch Library is due primarily to the vision, passion, and commitment of Fran Devlin, the branch assistant who's served this branch since 2008. Fran works tirelessly to serve the Arnold community. Bonnie Doyle, who serves on Fridays and Saturdays, also gives great energy and enthusiasm to this branch. Both work with and through the community and the Arnold Friends of the Library group. We're happy today to have Richard Rasso, who is the chairman of that group, with us, and also Jack Kuhn from that community, who serves on the Library Commission and has also served on that local board for many years. Without all of these, the branch would not be what it is today. So I say thank you to Fran, to Bonnie, to the Friends of the Library, and to all in the Arnold community who helped to make this branch what it is. If you haven't visited it, you must. It has a fireplace. So when you're cold in the winter, just go up and you will be warm. I'd like to introduce Fran now and let her introduce some of the people from the community.
Good morning. I'm Fran Devlin. Some of you already know me. On behalf of the Arnold Library, I want to thank everybody here and in the community for the support that you've given to the Arnold Library for the last 50 years. And we're very proud to say that all this week we're celebrating with crafts and snacks and scavenger hunts and a party and 5 visiting national mystery writers to a special event, and 3 children's writers who are visiting the library. And so I don't take up too much more time. Rich Razzo, would you please stand? Jack? And I also wanted to take a moment, since they're here, to have all of the Loyal Order of the Moose and the Women of the Moose stand up, please, because without them, we would be much less successful. They're very, very supportive of the Arnold Library. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Any further public comment?
I'm deeply grateful for the library system in Calaveras County, and I appreciate them giving us a chance at having informed ideas, and it is a treasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Clapp, second by Supervisor Tofinelli. No more public comments, so all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous.
So now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors proclaim May 21 through 28, 2017 as Arnold Branch Library Week. All residents are encouraged to visit the library this week to take advantage of the abundance of library resources, family fun, giant book sale, and more at the library. For those that are part of the library, would you please come forward?
And as that's happening, I want to personally thank Fran, the staff at Arnold, and our library system, our new librarian. You folks do an outstanding job for what you have to work with. Madam Clerk?
Public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may move immediately to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind respect for the speakers, respect for the chambers, and respect for the board, and respect for each other during public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Bonnie Newman. I'm from Double Springs, and I'm here today to tell you about a story that you may have not have heard before, and if you've heard it, you may not have believed it, but I have it from two reliable sources. One is a lady named Sadie Hunt, who lived on Double Springs from 1896 until the 1980s. And the other reliable source is a lady named Norma Churchill, who I think heard the story from Sadie also, but it goes like this. It's the story of our beginning, your beginning, the roots of Calaveras County. Before the white man came, there was a place called the Springs, and today it's called Double Springs. Sometimes you may hear that it's called Double Springs because there's two springs there, but that's not true. There's dozens and dozens of springs. In the days of the Indians, they used to congregate there in the spring and the fall because the water was so abundant, game was good, and it was a nice, easy place to access. When the white man came, they came on horses and wagons, and the main routes was 12 and 26, which were originally footpaths, became pony paths, and eventually wagon trails, and finally cars. But before then, when you had to make your trip from the lowlands up to the gold fields, you traveled those routes. And up until Valley Springs, it was a pretty flat route. And you could drive your team and get along real well and make good time. But when you got up to the springs, that's when the grades changed. That's when you started hitting hills. And if you run your team up and down those hills, you wouldn't make it to the gold fields. So at the springs, you had to double up your team. That's where the term double springs came from. You need to double up your team at the springs in order to get up to the gold fields. And there's more to the story. Unfortunately, we're so limited with only 3 minutes, so I'll try and come back in a good, timely manner before you forget the first part of the story and I tell you the second part, but that's where you come from. We had our first courthouse on Double Springs, and if it wasn't for them thieving, no-good, low-down scoundrels from McCollum Hill that came and took our archives, we'd still be having you guys on Double Springs. So
Thank you.
see you next time.
Well, good morning.
Morning, Bertha.
Bertha Underhill from, where am I from this morning? Camp Connell. I stand here before you and I probably am so upset with myself because 5 years ago, I did not take part in some hearings that were being done on the widening of the road in front of Calaveras Big Trees State Park. And I don't know if any of you have gone up, maybe Mike has gone up, but it is being devastated. It is terrible. They have taken down trees. They are now going into blasting rock, and what they're going to do is widen the road because they say they have a problem with the salt going down into the creek. And fellas, gentlemen, it is terrible. It is terrible. My heart hurts, and if you could get pictures of what that looks like, it is utterly devastating. And anybody who's going down the hill knows exactly what I mean. Trees as big as this room are being taken down. And as I say, the rocks are going to have to be blasted. They can use that thing that crushes the rocks or, moves them. But it's going to take dynamite to complete their job. And what for? I don't know how many accidents we've had in front of Calaveras Big Tree State Park. Not too many. Maybe some going into Big Trees Creek. But it is terrible. And I'm sorry that I didn't pay attention 5 years ago when they started talking about what they were going to do, because I would have had riots or something. But please, take a look at what's happening, and the impact that it's going to have on our tourism is another issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bertha.
Good morning, Joan Wilson, District 1. Gentlemen, I am here again, still waiting for along with many taxpaying citizens of this county to hear how you intend to pay for a ban on commercial cannabis cultivation and possibly on the few legal operating tax-paying dispensaries that have been serving the people of not only this county, but the neighboring counties as well, bringing money from those counties into Calaveras County. Yes, we have not forgotten and anxiously await your profound answers. We have the crafted ban from county staff and an EIR that came back very quickly after a redirection of an EIR that was meant for the regulation of commercial cannabis. Mr. Clapp, you have stated that you are only here to ban marijuana in this county. I can only wonder how you ended up here, since you had never attended anything like the meeting to meet the candidates that all the other candidates attended, including Mr. Kearney, who was the fifth person in your district to face a recall? I never would have dreamed of finding a candidate hanging out in a barber shop. I believe we read that in the newspaper. Although the picture of that may conjure up images of a small town called Mayberry, it would have been that crooked city slicker crook that would be trying to pull the wool over the believed to be backwards hick town, only to be thwarted by the sensible sheriff. That's the player that would be the one not to show up in public, well advertised, meet the people that may be representing the county kind of meeting. When is it that you are to show up in court as a defendant in an elder abuse case that I've heard about? How do you plan on getting the money to enforce this ban? Mr. Mills, you have so often stated that you understand budgets and how they work. Perhaps you can enlighten the entire tax-paying citizens of this county all at one time to the fact of how you plan on paying to enforce this ban. Move money around in the budget without commingling funds, I hope. How do you plan on paying to enforce the ban? You must also be smart enough to have a plan to eradicate the numerous illegal grows in this county, something that no other governing body of collective minds has yet to achieve in this county or anywhere else in the country. So please help us to soothe our simple concerns and tell us how you plan on paying for this great feat of banning not only law-abiding, tax-paying commercial cultivation, but the eradication of the illegal and dangerous marijuana growers. Again, I and the rest of the taxpaying citizens in this county would like to hear in one publicly open forum how you, sir, plan to pay to enforce this ban. Mr. Tofinelli, good morning. We have not forgotten you. You are the supervisor that called for the county to use taxpayers' money, directing staff to craft this ban. How do you plan on getting the funds to enforce such a ban?
Ma'am, thank you. Your 3 minutes are up.
Good morning. My name is Dave Vaccarezza. I'm with Cal Waste Recovery. I'm here today to approach you or to deliver to you a check for the recyclables as one of the provisions for our contract that we actually returned the revenue from all the recyclables that are generated throughout the county. We have a check here today to deliver to you. I want to clarify a few things that while this is a healthy check today, I'll tell you, the check is for $20,371. That's for the month of December. So we're just getting paid from the brokers in December, so now we deliver the check to the county. So I wanted to take this time to bring it to the board's attention that this contract now is starting to generate some revenue for the county, and this revenue is really subject to the marketability of the recyclables that are out there. This check is coming at a time when the markets are at probably a 3 or a 4 year high. So when I come back with the next check and it's a little bit less, it's a volatile market, and we have the information to support the dollar figure with this. So I do encourage you not to really count on that money necessarily. At the same time, I think it was put together in the spirit of really encouraging, taking that money and encouraging people to further their recycling efforts here in the county. We've got to reach a goal of 75% in the next 3 or 4 years, and that's going to be tough to do. And I think the way that it has to be done is through education. And I have Mary Beth here who can speak a little bit to that when she gets her time. But I would encourage you to use these funds really throughout the community to encourage recycling, and really look to our local educators to educate not only the public but the private sector, not only the public but the kids in the school as well. We have a program that we go into all the classrooms for a couple of days a week, and I just want to conclude by saying that this money really comes from the ratepayers, the ratepayers that have curbside service, and those ratepayers are only about 25% of our population, yet that 25% of the population recycles 80% of what comes out of the county in recyclables. So I think there's something to be said in that we're putting a program together that's for the long term, that's for the bigger picture, and we'd just like to see these funds be used in the county. So, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Dave.
Good morning, Mary Beth Hospital, Community Outreach Coordinator for Cal Waste. I just want to say that I have had the opportunity to work in the community for the last 4 years and in the schools, and it's been a great learning experience for me, and it's also been a great giving back. There's so many service organizations also in our communities that could use this money. Schools want to implement programs. They want to put in gardens. They want to do great things, but they don't have the money. So I just really hope that you guys will take this check, put it back into the community, hopefully put it back into the schools, or maybe set up some sort of program where somebody can come to the board and apply for this money, some service organization or schools in Calaveras County. So I really hope that you guys will do something great with this money and give it back to the community. And if I can be of any help, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Good morning. Kathy Northington, Calaveras County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm here to support their request and ask that you as a Board of Supervisors consider the schools. The schools have been heavily involved, thanks to Cal Waste has come in and really done an excellent job getting the schools involved and really doing lots of recycling. And I know that with my own daughter, I became a recycler when she came back to me and really got me our home recycling. So our youth really need to take the bull by the horns and make this happen. And so I would, hope that you would consider that some sort of program that can bring some curriculum into the schools. The schools, as you guys, I know you've got tough work to do with the funds before you. Schools, we're always charged with more things to do, and money is always tight. But if some of this money could be set aside, I'd be happy to sit on any committees to talk about how we could make that happen in the schools. If you wanted to do that, whatever you want to do, call on me. I'm open to doing that. But the schools, we need to make stewards of our youth. We need to create people who are going to go out and take care of Mother Earth. And I think we do that by educating our kids in our schools. And so I really want to support them. I had participated in the chamber leadership, and we got a chance to go and visit the facility in Galt and heard about the plight of Calaveras County, where we are in all of our recycling and such. And I asked that they let me know when they were going to be coming here with this money so that I could come before you and ask that you really consider the schools and what we could do to get our youth on board with taking care of our environment, not just recycling, but taking care of our environment in total and doing everything we could to be good stewards. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nottington. Good morning, Ms. Shope.
Good morning, Barbara Uke, District Attorney. I'm here to introduce Letitia Heafy. Letitia is the newest addition to our Victim Services Group. She is specially assigned to the XC grant. That is the grant that the board spent a lot of time, and admin and HR spent a lot of time helping us get through. The XC grant serves 2 underserved populations in Calaveras County. Those are the VNOCs, that's the Victims Next of Kin in Homicide cases. With our uptick in homicides over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of VNOCs to try to help get through the devastation in their families and through what the court system puts them through. So we're very pleased that she's on board for that. The other underserved population that the Victim Services Steering Committee identified when we applied for the grant is a group we've called SHARES. That's children in high exposure and risk cases. We do have a lot of kids that we want to reach out to, and Letitia's have some great ideas for outreach, especially for that particular underserved population. She comes to us from Kings County. She has years of experience running a very similar grant from its inception and to getting out into the public and letting the public know what services are out there for victims, working closely with all of our law enforcement partners, the hospital down there, all the schools down there, and many other groups that I don't want to sit here and list for you, but we're expecting some great things from Letitia. She's ready to hit the ground running. She doesn't actually have to run, since if you recall, you agreed to allow us to purchase a vehicle for her, so now we've got someone to drive it. We don't have plates yet, but we're working on that. So expect to see her around. Like I said, she's got some great ideas, and we are pleased that she is here, and thank you so much for your support. And I want to specifically acknowledge HR and all the work they did in helping us to bring Letitia on board. Thank you.
Welcome, Letitia.
I am so proud to be part of this grant and to be in Calaveras County, and looking forward to working with every one of you. And we do have some great ideas. Kathy Howell, the program coordinator, is amazing. Her and I are hoping to just take this by the bullhorns and go forward and see what we can do in helping our victims and our secondary victims and our children. And I just hope we have the cooperation of the whole community and the board as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
At Rock Estes Valley Springs, I'm here as I have been recently to remind you that on the cannabis question, it's not just ban or regulate. There is a third way, and I'm sure you're going to find it. Now, I intended to speak on the meeting last night held to address the environmental impact report, and I hope I'll get to that. But I can't let pass the comments of an earlier speaker regarding the supervisor in District 1, and I live in Valley Springs in District 1. In all the time that Supervisor Kearney was in office, I never saw him anywhere that wasn't a photo op. If he ever held any kind of a town hall meeting or invited his constituents to ask him questions, I certainly was never informed and never heard of such a thing. I attended a town hall meeting that Supervisor Clapp held last month, which was very fairly moderated. Everyone had their say, people on each side of each issue. I just never saw that from Supervisor Kearney. Never saw him in Marval. I'm there 2 to 3 times a week. Never saw him anywhere. He was the invisible supervisor. The only time I ever had any interaction, and it wasn't my interaction, was when I happened to be sitting in the back room of a business. I guess he didn't realize I was there, and he came in and spoke to the proprietor, and he said, and of course I could have the proprietor confirm this, I don't know why I'm bothering to run all these advertisements to keep myself in office. Everybody already knows I'm a crook. Now, I think he was speaking facetiously, but he said the words. Now, regarding last night's, oh, by the way, I know he kept an office at the RCOP, of which I was a member. I never saw him there either. Supervisor Clapp is at the barbershop often. It kind of functions as his de facto office as barbershops often have in society. I find him very accessible. Regarding last night, there was a flaw in the environmental impact report. And one of the people who prepared it at one point said, we treated all our evidence as though growers were in compliance. And so they came to a conclusion that there would be little or no effect on hydrology and water. But later, when you heard that they treated it as though everyone were in compliance, you realized that's flawed information, because you got people out in the hills growing, and they're certainly not in compliance. Anyway, I only have 15 seconds. Last night, for the first time, someone on the grower side, a mountain of a man, he had to look for the word, and somebody had to give him the word from the audience, and the word was compromise. And that's the first time I've heard that word, and there is a compromise available. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Barbara Cheney, and I thought I'd better come up here and ask you guys. You guys have all received emails from me, and we have thousands of people that want representation. We're getting no representation in the state of California. And we'd very much like to be put on the agenda to talk this over with you folks. It's very important to all of us. We feel like we're just blowing in the wind, and we're of no importance. What we have to say, what we feel, is of no importance to any place in Sacramento or other places in the state of California. And so we'd like to be able to be put on the agenda to talk to you about the situation, because like I said, we have thousands of people that want to be represented the way we should be represented. So if you would see fit to put us on the agenda, we certainly would appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Bagania, good morning. The president of Calaveras SEIU Local 1021 and constituent in District 1, which is represented by Gary Tofanelli. But I'm here to give a message, provide a message to the board. I also sit on as a member of the bargaining team between Calaveras County and the general unit. And what we're hearing things coming across the table that gives members, your employees, great pause. We are told that there is fiscal uncertainty and need to extend our contract for 6 months with no guarantee of what awaits those employees at that time. Our members are being asked to pay a portion of the county's share of the PERS retirement. Our members have not had a wage adjustment in 18 months. Our members continually...
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Council, are we in a position to entertain the rest of this public comment? You'll have your full 3 minutes, sir.
I just want to make sure that it's, public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. If there was an issue where you wanted to bring something up that was on item number 1, that would have been done at that item. This is for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Negotiations are on the agenda, and they already occurred this morning.
Okay, these are general statements, not specific to one particular issue, but the overall status of the county.
Yeah. Mr. Magana, I think that county council is right. This was an agendized item, even though it was a closed session.
Okay.
So at that time, I think we have an inappropriate public speaking comment issue here. Am I correct, council?
Could we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll consider that our clerk's break, too.
Thanks.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in session. Mr. Magana, would you approach the podium, please? Mr. Magana, I'm going to allow you to speak, but I'd like to have you understand, and the folks in the county, via our communications, our digital TV, and our gallery, that we are in formal negotiations with the bargaining units, and that we have to abide by fair practice laws in negotiation, and the fact that your bargaining unit is represented and is in negotiations with the county right now. I would caution of using information obtained in those negotiations, and please be cautious of how you represent what you need to speak about. Is that agreeable, sir?
I will do my best.
Is that agreeable, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll start over. My name is Michael Magana. I am the president
You
of
got 2.5 minutes left.
All right. So we were told at the bargaining table that there was a level of fiscal uncertainty needing to extend our contract. And I already talked about what our members have been asked to give up. With increases each and every year, it is no surprise that this county has a retention problem. Just about half of the employees in the general unit were hired after January of 2013. Keep that in mind. Members of the board, you control this so-called fiscal uncertainty. You currently have a voter-approved Measure C dollars coming into the county. You have 70 vacant but budgeted positions that carry a price tag of about $3.3 million. You have an assessor who is about 3,000 parcels behind, which brings no revenues to the county or to the schools. And now you're bringing in a management employee at the top step and citing the reason that in order to recruit a quality employee, you have to pay for it. Apparently, that only applies to management, not your employees who provide the day-to-day services to keep this county running. You asked our members to help out last go-around. The only thing that has changed then, since then, is measure funds, which you're leaning towards voiding. If this is the kind of mindset that continues on the board, you will lose a lot more quality employees before this issue is done. And just one last message is don't discount the ability of our members to organize. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Board. Bill McManus. As you know, on January 1st, there's going to be a convergence of two new laws relating to marijuana. That's AB 266 and Prop 64, which will become effective. While they appear to be carbon copies of each other, there are some differences between the two. It's my understanding that that will be handled by the newly minted Bureau of Marijuana Control out of Sacramento, which is issuing or coming up with regulations to incorporate elements from both of those bills. been my understanding that the board has shown, the will of the board has been to at least consider the ban of dispensaries to be included in the overall ban. I hope that that hits the agenda soon, haven't seen it yet, so that we can get that squared away. One thing I would add to that, though, is under Prop 64, there's a new license type that didn't appear under AB 266. That's type 12, which is called a micro business. So when I looked at it, it appears to be a huge loophole, just like dispensaries are. I have not had a chance to do the analysis or summary on micro businesses, but I hope to have it completed this week, and I will email it to you because I'd like you to have it prior to the meeting of next week when maybe this is going to be considered. I haven't seen the agenda yet. So that's what's coming up. I also have, sadly, to report some information received this morning that there has been some extreme vandalism at Natural Bridges County Park or State Park, whatever it is, recreation area, that a huge marijuana leaf was spray painted on the rock, black spray paint, that there is now gangbanger style graffiti around the area, including the road down to Natural Bridges. This has been a pristine area for citizens of Calaveras County and tourists to enjoy. I can't imagine a family going down there with their kids to enjoy the cool waters and the caves and everything else, having to walk by gangbanger graffiti and being greeted by a black marijuana leaf spray painted on the pristine rock. And all I would ask, is a rhetorical question, if you will, is how much more of Calaveras County are you going to sacrifice on the altar of experimentation to try to regulate that which you cannot regulate? How much longer do the citizens of this county have to tolerate this type of activity and the loss of natural assets that they've all come to enjoy? I love Natural Bridges. It's great in the summertime to dip your feet in the pool there, hang out in the cave where it's nice and cool, watch the children playing on the side of the water. I don't know if we're going to have that anymore. So I hope something can be done to help clean up Natural Bridges and restore a sense of peace and safety for families who want to enjoy it. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
The 264 pages of the ERR are not numbered, nor are the other documents that are marijuana related, such as the appendices 1 through 4. It makes it impossible to navigate through or question or refer to the content. The wording is often a mishmash of verbal rhetoric that renders itself meaningless. There is a complete vacuum when it comes to the cost accounting in the past, present, and future, which should deal with the mafia mentality that accompany marijuana cultivation. This unimaginably horrific watershed events, such as burying toxic substances with backhoes or hauling in truckloads of fill to cover it up for future generations to deal with, is not what any of us should want to leave for future generations. The EIR marks many of its subjects insignificant when anyone knows there are many significant and detrimental aspects to any one of the subjects. In other words, the generators of the document are prejudiced in favor of marijuana, period. In the meantime, why does the chair of the BOS still have former Supervisor Cliff Edson as a mentor when Cliff Edson was voted out? Why do supervisors hold out and dig their heels? Why do the two supervisors hold out and dig their heels in when the other three clearly do not want to participate in the pot-boon charade? Why are some county employees closest to this issue being maneuvered like puppets on a string, and by whom? Why did the legal folk of the county clear the last petition, which garnered 5,200 signatures, when according to the pot lawyers, it had a fatal flaw from the get-go thus rendering the people no recourse. Why some of the same county employees, having been brainwashed by the previous Board of Supervisors into thinking pot is the answer to the county's woes, are continuing to act as if those former supervisors are still supervisors. Patricia Gordo Burson, thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to come back to our agenda. I notice that we have not had announcements from the Board of Supervisors, so I'm going to go out of order on the agenda and offer the Board of Supervisors comments under the announcement. Any announcements by any Board of Supervisor member? Microphone, sir.
I attended Area 12. Make you happy?
No, is this reporting out?
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're not going to report out yet.
Oh, okay.
This is just the regular announcements. Okay, we'll do that at the end of our session. Supervisor Clark. Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
The consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Is there any member of the public wish to pull any item on the consent agenda? Please raise your hand and indicate which number. Seeing none, I'll bring it to the board. Any board member wish to pull an agenda item?
Yes, Chair, number 16.
Number 16 by Supervisor Mills. Seeing that's the only item pulled. I would entertain a motion to accept the rest of the agenda items on the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Supervisor Tofinelli. Second by Supervisor Clapp. Any public comment? No public comment. I'll bring it back to the board. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0 unanimous. I'm sorry, Supervisor Mills, item 16, I believe?
Can I
Yes.
please read the title?
Please.
Number 16 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution continuing a local state of emergency for the winter storm damage from extreme weather events that began on January 7th, 2017 through the month of February 2017.
Supervisor Mills.
Yes, the purpose of pulling this from the consent calendar this morning was I've been doing some research as those who are involved in community service area road committees. They have been just as severely impacted as our county roads. And the indication is they are county-maintained roads. And I would ask that the board consider, through staff, to have the CSAs added to this emergency declaration for the purpose of trying to make them whole financially as well. They're in a very precarious position with the amount of money that they take in versus the amount of work that is out there to be done to recover from. And if they go financially insolvent, we're going to be putting ourselves in a corner because they're going to end up in our lap. So I also would like to consider even CSD2 into this discussion because it involves roads and it should be a holistic approach to resolving these issues with roads. In the case of CSD2, their entire budget for the year is $62,500. And with the amount of culvert damage, just culvert damage alone, and ditch damage that they have that isn't taking into account the road damage, they could be bankrupt tomorrow. So I think we need to get them into this discussion and assist them in any way possible so that they can be just as viable in the future as they were before the storm started.
Mr. Clovis.
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. Should I answer questions or just speak to the item?
Could you address the issue of Supervisor Mills?
Yes, well, we have a number of community service areas, community service districts, and other formation districts that have the express purpose of maintaining roads. The structure of that is that the Board of Supervisors is the committee, the road committee, responsible. Generally, there are advisory committee in each of these supervisory districts, represented by, say, a large subdivision, Supervisors Clap, CSA 1, which has 45 miles of privately developed public roads that are maintained through a combination of funds that are both public and private funds. So I think that Supervisor Mills has a very good point, and I think that it would make sense that the private roads be added, if at all possible, at least for consideration by Cal OES and FEMA for inclusion into the flood events. In the initial damage assessment review that was performed by FEMA and Cal OES in January of 2017, they did go out and look at some sites on CSA roads and made some findings. For example, there's a couple of culverts that we had failure on, and FEMA attributed the failure to age as opposed to flooding. I will neither agree nor disagree in public to that, but I do believe that the county does have solid footing to appeal that finding. So in general, I believe that this would be a good idea, and I think that it has merit. Okay. But there is no guarantee, unfortunately.
Understand. So, as I understand it, our special district roads can be included, but it's up to FEMA whether or not they'll allow those expenditures? Is that what I'm hearing?
All these programs are grant programs, so they're grants from federal government through state government through the recipient, which is the county. They are all reimbursement programs or reimbursement grant programs, which means necessarily that the local agency takes and does the repair and then applies for reimbursement. And so all agencies, whether I'm going through Caltrans and FEMA on federal aid eligible roads such as Campo Seco Road, or whether I'm going through Cal OES and FEMA for public assistance roads such as Gwen Mine, the county has the responsibility to do the repairs, recovery, and then apply for the reimbursement. So one never knows going in whether you're going to get reimbursed or not.
Can we do that now?
What, do the repair?
On the repairs in special districts, can we apply for reimbursement on those?
You can't apply before you've expended the monies. You've got to essentially identify the project. Then if federal monies are going to be paid, so there's going to be a series of inspections and verifications, then the federal government, be it federal highway or FEMA, will do environmental assessment from a NEPA perspective because they're expending federal funds. And so our work, unless it's an emergency repair, has to occur after the project is scoped and analyzed for environmental clearance.
I might want to add into this discussion as part of my research, one of the things that they considered vital is to ensure that the county has records of maintenance of those roads prior to the storm, and that it's not an opportunity for us to take advantage of bringing roads up to standard simply because we haven't been maintaining them. These are roads that have been maintained all along, and all they want to do is have proof that we've done that.
Absolutely.
So I've
We
done
have
my
that.
research a little bit on that one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item?
I have a couple of questions.
Supervisor Toffenelli?
I have somewhat of a concern. I'm not sure. Supervisor Mills brought up the service district that he was talking about had an operating budget of $62,500. Now, a lot of these, and I'm in one, I'm not a CSD, but we maintain our own roads. We're not subject to the Davis-Bacon Act. So including these into this emergency order, does that mean all work performed, because they're now engulfed in here, all work performed will now become and bid out as Davis-Bacon Act projects because we're involving with an envelope with them? Or can they still maintain their roads, getting private bids for them and going down that road?
you want me to answer that? You're exactly right. They would not have to take or accept the federal side of it. They could do their own RFPs. They could still do their own work. It's just we want to have them included. It would be like the water districts or the sewer districts or anyone else. As a whole community, they are involved in the economic damage to this county. And this is simply to make a declaration that part of making us whole is to include other districts, special districts, et cetera, into this declaration to be sure that everyone has an opportunity to have a piece in the recovery.
And I understand that. My only concern is when you engulf them in this envelope and include them in this, does that, during that period of time of recovery, does that engulf them in that envelope or that umbrella of having to go down the Davis-Bacon Act?
It's a great question. For the purpose of the repairs related to a grant, the Davis-Bacon Act would apply. But only to those of
I'm
which,
just making
yeah,
sure we're
the
clear.
rest
I
of,
hear what you're saying.
yeah.
I completely hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it was just my concern now that they're now under this.
Yeah, we don't want, they're not going to be under a permanent umbrella of Davis-Bacon, only for the purposes of the repair that was result of
Specific
the,
repairs that need to be dealt with under this project.
that is correct.
CAO Lutz, I understand you need to speak.
Well, no, I think we got it clarified from that point, because I did want to comment that certainly anything that's going to get the federal or state reimbursement is going to have to comply with the act, which means going through the more formal process, higher costs for the public works agreements based on prevailing wage, et cetera. And so I think we got it clarified on that piece.
But it is not a permanent status, is the point.
Well, no, but excuse me, but they will still have to come up with the matching part of that, or we're talking about the county coming up with the matching part of it also for their work.
And that's another thing that we learned from FEMA is matching is not always a guaranteed requirement. There are ways to get around that with in-kind contributions and other ways. So we can leverage that. So don't look at saying because we don't have the 6.25 match that somehow that's going to stop us. It will not. You agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Any further questions on this item?
Yes, I have Silver Rapids again. It's from, it's storm related because every time there's a flood down the valley, they run trucks all night long on Silver Rapids and they're hauling riprap down below and they're tearing the road up. And I keep asking for that to be put on, and I don't see how that's not storm related when they're tearing my roads up by hauling rock, 24 hours a day down my road.
We can certainly look at it again, Supervisor Clapp. FEMA is specifically looking for damage sites or projects that are directly caused by a federally declared disaster. So for example, if it was the Butte Fire, then only fire damage to our roads or fire damage to the trees alongside of the roads would be covered by these grants. For the floods of 2017, only damage directly incurred as a result of the events that occurred, the 4 events for which the county is now eligible. If the damage occurred during those events, that would be specific to it. So it's a question of us being able to prove that the damage that you're describing is a direct result of the flooding that occurred as a result of one of the 4 storms for which we are eligible. Okay?
Thank you.
So we will look again. We have another just over 50 days in which to add to our list of projects. So we will certainly take an active role and look at that again.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krovitz. Any public comment?
Ben Stopper, District 5. What Gary brought up is a very good point, because at the point where you're expecting to get FEMA money back or other money from the government, as soon as you spend 1 penny of that towards that project, it has to be a prevailing wage job. So at the point where you're expecting to get money back, you're already having to spend more money from the start, and you don't even know if you're going to receive it back later. And as it applies in Rancho, where I live, where Mr. Clapp is bringing up. None of Silver Rapids has broken down from that storm. And actually, Silver Rapids is the nicest road in our Rancho area. There's farther roads down towards Jenny Lynn that are falling apart that actually do have some storm damage from the rains this year. And those are the areas you should look at. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Entertain a motion.
Is there a way to amend the declaration to include, or would that require us a new declaration? I'm asking council.
We can certainly modify the resolution if it's a matter of modifying the language.
What I would like to do then is make a motion to modify this declaration to include our CSAs and CSDs, if at all possible, where they found the need for the use of this type of money.
Good morning,
Mr.
Brian
Moss.
Moss, Administrative Office. To add to that, after that amendment, whatever that amendment turns out to be specifically, we will forward that to the Governor's Office of Emergency Services as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last point, sir.
We will go ahead, any kind of amendment to that declaration, we will go ahead and forward that to the Governor's Office of Emergency Services as well. The board may want to make that direction as well, to both FEMA and to the Governor's Office of Emergency Services.
Correct. I would then also make that direction to FEMA and to Cal OES that they be notified, and that if they have some pushback or they have some concerns, that we hear about those.
Yes, we just need to keep them in the loop.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Gentlemen, we have a motion on the floor, but with no second.
I just want to clarify, whenever we wordsmith or modify a resolution, we typically will take a break so that we can draft that modification rather than it just being verbal on the record. So everyone is very clear on what it is. So we could do one of two things: take a break to make that modification, or we can we can table this topic, this item, and at lunchtime we can draft a modification to it. Or alternatively, we can make that modification at the next time that this declaration comes forward at the next board meeting. Those are three options that the board can have.
Okay. What I think we should do is, Supervisor Mills, if you'll draw your motion as stated, and we will seek a modification during the lunchtime to bring back to the board for motion and approval or denied. Is that agreeable? I think we can work that way.
I would move to withdraw, and then we can bring this back at a future point in the meeting today.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Moving to the regular agenda, the next item, item 20, is from the Board of Supervisors to receive the Library Commission's 2016 annual report.
Good morning. Connie Bowser from Angels Camp and a member of the Library Commission. The Calaveras County Library Commission wanted to take this opportunity to follow up on the annual report submitted to the board in March. As outlined in the report, we are continuing our community outreach through various events and projects designed to educate the public on the services available at each library branch. We are working on creating a maintenance and upkeep schedule for all library branches, and we will communicate this to the Facilities Department to address ongoing needs. We will soon be submitting our proposed update to the county ordinance, which established the commission in 1961. With this update, we hope to clearly define the role of the commission working with the county librarian and the Board of Supervisors. We would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the Board of Supervisors for the approving and funding of the contract for technology services, which enabled the installation of scenic broadband at 4 of our branch locations. This project is in process currently, and once complete, will bring much-needed services throughout the county. And lastly, and very importantly, we would like to applaud the incredible vision, hard work, and dedication of our county librarian, Nancy Giddens. She has been a phenomenal addition to the library in our county. We look forward to our continuing collaboration with Nancy and the Board of Supervisors to improve and promote the best library system our county can provide to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any public comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 21 is from Human Resources to adopt a resolution appointing Ed Short to the position of Chief Building Official effective June 5th, 2017.
Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Director. Good morning, Board. I am very happy to bring before you today a resolution memorializing the vote that was taken on May 5th, appointing Ed Short as the Chief Building Official. Ed brings to Calaveras County over 25 years of successful experience in all aspects of development and construction industry, which includes private residential, commercial, municipal utility, community development, and public works projects. Ed is a graduate of UC Davis with a bachelor's degree in engineering and an emphasis on building design. Ed is also a licensed engineer in California, a credentialed building official, and a certified flood manager. And instead of me going on and on about him, I would like to let him tell you about himself.
Good morning. I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I want to say right off the bat, I'm honored to become part of the Calaveras team. And I'm looking forward to working in each and one of you, and also the community and staff, and bringing business-friendly and citizen-friendly services that'll meet or exceed the county. I could talk a little bit about more myself, but I don't want to bore everybody about, but I'm just so happy to be here to be part of this great county. It is a great community, and I can see already that I really love this place. A little bit about myself. I've been involved in all aspects of municipal services, from public works, building, everything I've been involved in. So I bring a lot to the table that you guys can utilize to help the community, and I'm just looking forward to working with everybody on that. If you have any questions specifically to me, and I think we have already talked quite a bit, I can answer any questions if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for the appointment. All right.
And Ms. Hawkins, you've done a standing stellar job of bringing us qualified candidates, not only for our building department, for the rest of our department heads. Job well done.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to thank my team. They have done an awesome job.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it to the board. Any board comments? I would entertain a motion.
I would so move.
Moved by Supervisor Mills,
I'll second it.
second by Supervisor Clapp. No further public comment? Then we'll bring it to the board for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0 unanimous.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Item 22 is from the Administrative Office to authorize the Board Chair to sign a letter of support for Assembly Bill 524, Bigelow, for matching funds by the county for recovery projects funded by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Office of Emergency Services.
Are there any presenters on this?
If I may, that's
Supervisor
right.
Garamendi,
I asked for it to go forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair. AB 524 is a piece of legislation that was put forward by Assemblyman Bigelow earlier this winter and proceeded through the spring. It was originally a tax credit bill for tree mortality removal. It morphed into, after PG&E and was fined by the PUC by almost $8.4 million. It morphed into a piece of legislation since the last board meeting that would come to Calaveras County and Amador County to help in fire relief and recovery. Yesterday, it morphed again into a bill where the $8.4 million will be given to CAL FIRE to be used in SRA, so counties can apply for grants. This happened last night. The language is not in print yet, although we've seen various ideas on it. So if it's all right with the board, I would like to withdraw this item and we bring it back once we know exactly what we're talking about.
Any comments from the board? Comments from legal?
I do have a concern about this $8.4 million, and that is this. If you are walking down the street and you get beat up by a thug, and the next thing that happens is the thug gets caught by the police and he gets fined for beating you up, and then the police keep the fine. That's literally where we're at right now with this.
Well, worse, it's the police in the next town over.
Yeah, and everybody gets to share. But the guy that got beat up is left to fend for himself. So this is a very unfortunate situation here, and I just want the public to understand that Supervisor Garamendi and the rest of the board is really wanting to see justice served here for our county. Thank you for your effort.
Well, thank you very much, and you're correct. It is not fair. But as my mother used to tell me, life is not fair, and but it certainly doesn't pass muster on fairness test. It's not this.
Any further comments by the board? Any public comment?
Well, I'm really very, very pleased to hear this coming from you, Supervisor Garamendi, because so many people were just looking at that money coming back to Calaveras and Amador and thinking, how can we benefit? And now it's being watered down, and I certainly appreciate your watching it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bertha. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for, we withdrew the motion, so, withdrew the issue, rather. Yeah, Madam Clerk.
Item 23 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution approving an interclass transfer to increase fiscal year 2016-17 Public Works Roads and Bridges budget, line item 102000760, capital asset line item 5701 by $200,000 and reduce line item 5271 by $200,000 and approve the addition of the temporary bridge to the Roads and Bridges capital asset list. To direct the county administrative officer to identify funds for reimbursement to Public Works, Roads and Bridges for the purchase and installation of a temporary bridge at Main Street, Blagan Road, crossing Big Trees Creek in White Pines. To direct the Public Works Director to purchase a pre-engineered manufactured bridge and execute contracts necessary to install, construct temporary approach roadways, and place appropriate facilities for the installation of a temporary bridge. To direct staff to process the purchase and installation of the temporary bridge to maximize the potential for federal and state reimbursement, and to include the temporary bridge in county's capital asset inventory.
Mr. Grovis?
Jeff Krowitz, Public Works. As you all know, this is a bridge that was, or not a bridge, it was a crossing of a creek, Big Trees Creek, coming out of Big Tree State Park, underneath Blagan Road, that was washed out during the first and second storm events of January of 2017. The Public Works Department determined that Blagan Road well into the park is county-maintained roadway, adopted into the county-maintained road system. I sent out a resolution that included the listing for the number of miles from State Route 4 and Main Street all the way just under a mile, about 0.97 of a mile. And we've wheeled that a couple of times, even though the alignment has changed slightly since 2004. It's still well past this bridge, so this crossing. I've heard a lot from the community, from the Emergency Services District, from CCWD, and so this project was raised high on the priority list of repairs and requested Cal OES and FEMA to approve, as it were, a temporary bridge in advance, or a temporary crossing in advance of us doing permanent repairs. They've been silent on that issue and have indicated to me that if we believe it's reimbursable, we put together our package and we submit it for reimbursement. So there's question as to whether the temporary work is reimbursable or not reimbursable. I personally believe that it is, but I have no guarantee on how that narrative will go with state and federal agencies. I have looked at this crossing several ways. As you all know, it contains a major CCWD water line that provides domestic and fire water service. It contains a sewer line coming out of the park and some private business entities back there. It provides access to U.S. Forest Service roads. It provides access to SPI forest lands, natural resource lands, as well as providing access to the White Pines Community Park and Little League fields. The community has indicated to me that this is a significant crossing for the benefit for the welfare of that community. And so I am bringing this item as an idea and seeking direction from the Board of Supervisors as a possible scenario for funding. Since I last got up in front of you and spoke to this Blagan Road item, maybe I should repeat a little bit of the history. When we first declared a local state of emergency as a consequence of January winter storms, we then modified that resolution when it came up for restatement to include Blagan as a special location. And then we went ahead and added to that same resolution the storms of late February, so that we are covered for all the storms for which we are eligible with on a local state of emergency. So I wanted to remind this board of that. I've looked at some alternatives for a temporary replacement of this crossing. I've looked at replacing it exactly the way it was before the storm washed out the culvert, which would be temporary in nature, because the water volumes that overwhelmed and washed out this crossing that we experienced in the storms, the first two storms of January and the last two storms of February, all continue to do progressive damage to the crossing. It's my personal opinion that a 48-inch culvert doesn't have the capacity for the demand, given the types of rain events that we experienced this winter. And I have no reason to believe that these types of events will not happen in the future. However, to make that type of a determination requires engineering studies, which are beyond the immediate skill set of Public Works staff. So we'll go out for an RFP, get engineering analysis that would be hydrologic and hydraulic to discover the adequacy of a structure within the creek that would allow passage of an expected legitimate storm event. Essentially, we designed to a 100-year event for bridges on the national highway system, and we designed for a 200-year event for bridges on the local road system. That's county ordinance. So what I was looking for was a temporary structure that would allow us to reopen Blagan Road, allow activities beyond that crossing to continue while we go through the protracted process of environmental assessment, engineering, type selection, which is the process of selecting the appropriate structure type for that given crossing, then developing construction documents and bidding and advertised bidding and awarding a contract for the final construction. My estimate is that the fastest I've ever been able to do this type of work in my career has been about 30 to 34 months. I would expect similar results on this, but that's about how long it takes to do all the studies and to get FEMA to do their NEPA studies, to get us to complete our CEQA studies, and as well as the geotechnical engineering studies to make sure that the soil can handle what it can handle. As I mentioned before, I looked at two alternatives to reopen the crossing. One was a temporary bridge that is a prefabricated, pre-engineered segmental bridge. Essentially, it's a Tinker Toy bridge. It's made up of truss panels of galvanized steel that are assembled and put together with large diameter pins. These types of bridges were developed during World War II by Bailey, Bailey Bridges, and there are several manufacturers across the country and internationally that fabricate these bridges that can be used for a temporary bridge. In my career, I have installed about 6 of these bridges. Some were temporary, some were permanent. I've done 2 permanent bridges of this style for the Forest Service. On the Highway 50 corridor in El Dorado County, I did a 160-foot span over the Plumas River in Plumas County for a private entity, and I've done a couple of these as trail bridges. The reason I selected this type of a bridge is because it's easily loaded onto a truck, stored into a yard, and deployed quickly. They're also very flexible so that if one needs a very short, wide bridge, you rearrange your panels, you can get a short, wide bridge. Maybe you need a long, skinny bridge. They're all panelized so that they are segmental in nature and pre-engineered, or the engineering is essentially push-button engineering that says this is what you need to make a span and the loading that's required. Again, the loading that is required on this crossing will be, our heaviest loads generally tend to be fire trucks because they're carrying water with them. It's critical that we reestablish emergency services. Blagan is only one of the lakes, White Pines is only one of the lakes up that corridor that provides recreation to the county. And there are several reservoirs east of this location that are inaccessible and will remain inaccessible during this summer and fall season due to storm damage, and those agencies having to go through their process for the reconstruction of their storm and damaged roads. So we anticipate that there's going to be a greater demand on White Pines than there has been in the past. I looked at replacing the crossing with a 48-inch corrugated metal pipe, which was washed out during the storm events. The net cost for that, including dewatering, which we would be required to do to dewater the creek temporarily while we did the work, is about $168,000. Some of the materials that we would purchase for that, such as the pipe itself, the temporary pipe for dewatering, the K-rail that we would use to put up railing on the sides of the bridge on the approach roadway, could be reused in other locations in the county, so that total cost $168,000, $169,000 with a net reusable value of about $28,500. Comparing that to the values of using a temporary bridge, and there are 2 in the board package, it's about the same cost. The difference is that going with a temporary bridge, we have within our inventory now an emergency bridge for a minimum of a 50-foot span that can be reused again and again. I've had some meetings with CCWD where we discussed this, asked them if they would consider participating on this in one way or another, and they've expressed some positive notes, but of course it has to be a board item for their board. So we would have to make a formal request in terms of what we think would be equitable, and they would have to go through a board package. The board package that I provided to you talks about one method of funding the restoration of this crossing, which would be a loan out of road and bridges funds that you all know are severely stressed right now, to be able to get the crossing redone, and then hopefully as we work our way through this year's budget process, we could identify funds for repayment of road and bridges funds, so that we could then utilize those same cash monies later in the year for maintenance that will be required throughout the county. So I do want to stress on this item that it is an immediate benefit to District too, but it is also a benefit to not only the county, but to other utility providers that may have a need of an emergency bridge. To let you know what we have in this county, we have about, I think it's about 80 to 90 bridges that are defined as bridges by Caltrans that are part of the National Bridge Inventory System. In addition to that, we have another 80 or 90 what are called minor structures that do not meet a bridge category, but they are still crossings. So, for example, the one that I drive over almost every night up by the Josie's on Whiskey Slide Road in Mountain Ranch is a short little bridge over a local creek. It's only 20 feet, and therefore it's not described as a bridge, but should that wash out, which I was quite concerned with during these rain events, we would in our inventory be able to replace that within days and restore that corridor until we could do permanent repairs. So I've also utilized these bridges before when I am doing highway bridge replacement program bridges that require a temporary detour. And both Tuolumne County and Plumas County have utilized or was considering utilizing these types of bridges for the detour, so that whatever the cost of building a temporary bridge would be, those costs would be offset against the total cost of the bridge. The county would fund the difference. They would then have a temporary bridge within their inventory. I did the same thing with Solano County on a number of bridges that I did with them, and they, I believe, reached out and purchased one of these bridges for their inventory as well. So I think that is about all I have on this item, but I will entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Krovitz. Any questions by the board members? Supervisor Mills?
More to comments, if you'd rather to have public comment first, and then we can discuss it.
Okay. Would you like to do that? All right. You will be available for questions after public comments?
As long as you need me.
Thank you, Mr. Krovitz.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll entertain public comments regarding this agenda item.
Hello, Lisa Bolton, Executive Director of the Calaveras Visitors Bureau.
Hello, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here today to ask the Board of Directors to expedite a plan of action for getting White Pines Lake in top shape for the 2017 summer season before the massive influx of tourists that starts on Memorial Day weekend. As you know, upcountry lake recreation is hugely popular in the summer months on Highway 4, and tourists who recreate on those lakes are mostly based in lodging along the Highway 4 corridor from Angels Camp to Tamarack and beyond, contributing to TOT taxes in Districts 3 and 4. And more TOT is collected from vacation rentals in Arnold than anywhere else in Calaveras County. While tourists are here, they shop at our grocery stores, eat in our restaurants, rent our boats and kayaks, buy our gas, and enjoy the entertainment we provide. In fact, the vast majority of all tourism business in Calaveras County occurs in these two districts, contributing in 2016 to total direct travel spending of $179,600,000. This number includes tourism dollars spent on lodging, restaurants, recreation, entertainment, retail, food stores, and transportation. In addition, tourism in 2016 supported over 16,000 jobs in Calaveras County and generated $4.7 million in local tax receipts, including $1.5 million in TOT taxes. Let's not forget that these taxes don't stay in their districts. The taxes enter the general funds of Angels Camp and Calaveras County, where they benefit the entire county. With White Pines Lake's recreational use diminished by damage from winter rains, our summer tourism numbers are likely to be significantly impacted, especially since this problem is compounded by the closing of Utica, Union, and Spicer reservoirs. If the perception is that all of our lakes are closed, we could have a disastrous summer season. It's imperative that we fix the infrastructure problems at White Pines so that we at least have one upcountry lake in great shape, ready for an increase in recreation. This will encourage summer tourists to keep to their plans to stay and play in Calaveras County, knowing that they are at least still able to recreate at White Pines and Lake Alpine. Let's protect our essential tourism visitation, supporting hundreds of businesses along the Highway 4 corridor, and get White Pines fixed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Calaveras Board of Supervisors. It's great to see each and every one of you. I would like to start off by saying I completely support what Director Krovitz was up here and proposing to you, and I want to explain a few reasons why that is. Regarding the temporary bridge at Blagan Road, currently, it's very narrow in construction, and it has a locked access, which we do have a key to, but essentially, this is making it for an inefficient way for us to access the area during emergency responses. A delay in providing emergency aid for medical, trauma, drowning, structure fires, wildfires could mean the difference in success or not from a public safety standpoint. An alternate route around the forest roads takes about 15 minutes to access this area, and that's in a pickup truck. That time gets compounded significantly when you consider our larger fire apparatus that would be required to do any kind of real emergency work. Due to the narrowness of the bridge, it requires even the most skilled operators to be extra cautious to navigate this narrow bridge that's currently in place. And any bind up of the wide apparatus could keep other responders from using the bridge. Our largest and heaviest apparatus are used to suppress all types of fires and the most difficult to navigate over this bridge. I can see I got to speed up. The U.S. Forest Service will be closing those other lakes. We expect an anticipated increase in emergency calls to White Pines. People will access the areas that's difficult to access now. And we're on the verge of fire season, everybody. Things are heating up. The grass that we've seen grow so tall is going to be drying out. We've heard that this is where the SPI forested land and the Forest Service land, this is the most direct and common route to access that area. So from a public safety standpoint, we urge you, the Board of Supervisors, to approve a suitable temporary bridge that allows emergency vehicles to access the forest area, White Pines Lake, the structures, prior to the recreationalist crowds and the fire season really picking up for emergencies for both wider and a non-restricted access point for our emergency vehicles. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Chief.
Hello, my name is Jill Seal, and my husband and I own the Sierra Nevada Adventure Company in Arnold. We've been in business for over 20 years in Calaveras County, and I'm here to urge the members of the board to approve the temporary bridge on Blagan Road as soon as possible. It's important that the project be completed by the 4th of July weekend because Arnold's population swells to more than 30,000 people over that holiday. The biggest part of our business is renting kayaks and canoes, and this summer our customers and the county's tourists will have quite a challenge figuring out where to go paddling. As it stands right now, the 3 lakes out Spicer Reservoir Road might be inaccessible this summer. Thousands of tourists are coming, and they will heavily impact the only lakes available. That's going to be White Pines and Lake Alpine. We need this bridge for so many reasons, but recreation is why the tourists come to our area, and we don't want them to stop coming. For the past 17 years, we've held our Paddle Fest at White Pines Lake. It was a 70-person demo day for our customers, and it's always been the biggest day of our year. This year, we were unable to plan for this event. Unfortunately, for small businesses like ours, limited access to the lake translates into an immediate loss of income. We have 2 college students who work full-time for us in the summer, and without White Pines, we will have to let them know that we won't be needing them this summer. Like the Moose Lodge, we do what we can to give back to the community. One of the highlights of our summer is donating kayaks and canoes to the Calaveras Mentoring Program to have a day at the lake. This year, they can't plan their event at White Pines Lake either. That's another 70 people, kids from all over the county, many of them from Valley Springs, that are going to miss out on a fun day of paddling with their families and their mentors. From a business point of view, I can't think of a better investment for the county than to put in a temporary bridge. If we can keep the tourist dollars in our county, the funds that are spent will begin to be repaid in taxes. The county is very lucky to have the White Pines Park Committee volunteers that maintain the park. They have a selfless goal of providing a place for the community to recreate at a beautiful little lake, all at no expense to the county. Please vote to approve a temporary bridge at Blagan Road for the tourists, the local businesses, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Kafka, and my husband and I have volunteered at White Pines Park for the last 12 years. As you're aware, the wet winter damaged Blagan Road in White Pines, causing it to be closed and severely limiting access to White Pines Park, the only free park east of Murphy's. Because our county does not have a recreation department, nearly all the established parks are maintained and improved by volunteers. Such is the case at White Pines Park. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization run entirely by volunteers receiving no pay. We have an annual budget of over $12,000. We receive no government funding and rely on a membership drive, an annual raffle, donations, and recycling of beverage containers collected at the park to fund the maintenance improvements at the park. We have 6 donation containers on the other side of the closure. When people have access, we can expect to collect $40 to $50 per week from mainly out-of-town visitors. This closure has limited funding from that side of the park. We do not own any of this property, but lease over 90 acres from the local water district. And because of the road closure, 75% of the park is inaccessible by vehicular traffic. The closed area supports at least 150 parking spaces. On a busy weekend day, the entire park lot is full, and we have estimated that there are only over 500 visitors each day. For those who may not know, within the park we have a children's playground, adult fitness area, basketball and volleyball courts, horseshoe pits, disc golf course, over 80 picnic tables with barbecue pits, and a sandy beach for swimming. We also provide and volunteers maintain bathrooms and trash cans for use by our visitors. Last year, the park committee invested several $1,000s establishing the disc golf course and does not want to see that investment wasted. In addition, the park surrounds a lake where fish are planted that draw many fishermen to the area. Because the higher elevations are still snowed in, 2 fly fishing clubs recently used the lake where over 50 people participated. The parking lot was completely full with vehicles that day. One of the clubs came from the Fremont area. With many other areas in the county closed, such as Spicer Road, we are expecting increased park attendance. As we are approaching summer, we ask you to expedite the road department's request for funds to buy a temporary bridge so that visitors will not be disappointed should they be unable to access the park and lake. We do not want to see visitors to Calaveras County leave the area and visit other counties taking their money with them. A previous county supervisor called White Pines Park the jewel of Calaveras County. Thank you very much. Appreciate what you can do for us.
I'm Bill Nelson, White Pines Park volunteer. Without disrespect, but this supervisors Gary, Jack, Dennis, and Clyde, it's your constituents that use the park more than Supervisor Mike's. Because up in Arnold, the residents have their own swimming holes, swimming lakes, and pools that are private. So it's your constituents that come up to the park. And the reason I know this is in between cleaning toilets and picking up garbage, I'm a beach ambassador. And I like to talk to the people that come up and welcome them, and also try and get in their pocket at the same time, I like to welcome the people. And a lot come from the Valley Springs, Burzon, Wallace, Copperopolis, Stockton, Sacramento, and out of state that come up to this beautiful park. It's free. And it's run by just strictly donations, membership, and recycle. And if you don't put this bridge in, I don't know what's going to happen. A couple of years ago, we were talking about closing the park. and that would have been a catastrophe. But the lady who just spoke in front of me put her little button gear and got people to back her. And without this bridge, it is just going to be a catastrophe for the park. And is no parking. Sure, you can get a few people over there to walk, but if you get some grandma and grandpas bringing their grandchildren to the park, they can't walk from the parking lot where the park is over to the lake. It's just unrealistic. And I imagine all of you been up there, but that parking lot in front of the Moose, and we do sneak into the Moose too, is full. And that's just not the weekends. That's 7 days a week when it's beautiful. So I'm asking you, I'll even beg, and I don't beg nobody, to get that bridge in. For the county, and the taxes we're going to lose is just unbelievable, in my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Well, all I can say is third time's a charm, fellas. And here I am, this time representing CCWD. I'm Bertha Underhill, and I'm the Division 3 Director. With Mike, we're up the hill. CCWD leases property around White Pines Park to nonprofit community groups that include the Moose Lodge, and you're going to be hearing the stories from the Moose Lodge as soon as I'm through, but also to the White Pines Community Park, and they are a sublease of the county because we did that when they installed the children's playground equipment. And we also have the Courtright Emerson Memorial Ballpark, and unfortunately Tom was not able to be here. These groups access the facilities using Blagan Road, and it has been closed, due to safety concerns. The district recognized that these stakeholders in the community at large are experiencing significant hardships because they have no access to the back area of the park. CCWD has put a chain across Blagan Road, and that chain just last weekend was clipped, and so I had to call the fellas to come and put it up again. It is an extremely safety hazard. Immediately after the storm, CCWD worked closely with Calaveras County. Jeff and I had several conversations about what was happening, and we wanted to stabilize the area around the culvert. After we stabilized it, we did provide for a one-lane bridge, and Calaveras, just so happens that TNS, who's doing the Reach 3A project up on Highway 4, had a bridge that we could rent for temporary access, but it's only one lane, and that doesn't, Moose can let 3 people across. The fire department can walk across and leave their trucks on the other side because it just won't hold up, and we cannot afford to have that. So permanent repairs will be made by Public Works, and we have to do something immediately to help our summer, to help us get through the summer months. So I urge you to approve the temporary bridge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Cliff Edson, San Andreas. Usually I'm speaking about District 1 or somewhere around these areas. But, District 4, District 3, these other areas outside us are very important. I'm glad Lisa Bolton came with the information on tourism. Tourism is our largest industry in the county. And it's already being threatened by tree mortality and the fire that we had, the 72,000 acres, plus the damage from the flooding and road damages. As a matter of fact, right now, Ebbets Pass is closed, and they don't plan on opening that up for quite a while still, and they won't open it up until it's safe, so they still have to assess that. There are many roads that are up there that are normally open that aren't open now for tourists. This is a huge issue. Arnold and those areas depend, and the county depends on money that comes into those areas to be able to keep those people here at the county at work. That's how we keep our people here at work. You were talking earlier about, somebody was mentioning earlier about the county budget and being in negotiations with the union contracts. Well, how are you going to do it if you continue to cut the funding sources that keep those people working? And this is how you do it. You keep generating tax revenue. If we continue to cut our throats, then here we go. This bridge that Mr. Krovitz brought to you guys is an asset to the county. We're going to have another catastrophe. It's going to be reused. And if it's not reused here, we will be able to help other counties near us if they have a catastrophe. It's not that much money. I wouldn't use the funding that he's talking about. I think that he's probably a little gun shy because of the funding. He gets beat up all the time for almost everything. But last year, I think in our last budget cycle, we were listening to the auditor controller talking about how there's too much money in Teeter. This is perfect for Teeter. This is no different than upgrading a computer system or anything else that we could use to be able to, for a capital asset, to make it work for the county. This is an upgrade. It wouldn't take anything away from any other department. And we would keep people working that are working now. And we'd be helping that area tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Scott Fryer, Ebbets Pass Moose Lodge. I'm the governor of the lodge. The damage, we all know, to Blagan Road caused by the Big Trees Creek Rising has completely closed down our lodge. We have zero access to the lodge except for myself and two other my members. Like any other business, we need to remain open for not only ourselves, but for those who work and use our lodge on a daily basis. The loss of revenue to date is approximately $60,000. We have lost, that's just from January till now. I make my money for the year from May 1st through September, through Labor Day. Okay, I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't have access. I won't be able to carry my lodge through the winter months. We will not be able to do fundraising for our community. Last year alone, we were instrumental in helping raise over $15,000 for Hospice of the Sierra, which we donated to them. We gave out approximately $4,000 in college scholarships to local high schools. We prepared over 250 free Thanksgiving meals to those less fortunate in our community. It's open to every member. To every member of the community. It does not just have to be members of the lodge. We open up our doors. We have been used as a Red Cross shelter in the past. We open our doors in our kitchen to take care of firefighters, people that are displaced, like for the Butte fire and things like that. We would open our doors in our kitchen for those uses. The financial burden of not being able to open our doors is very substantial to us. Although we've tried to minimize our expenditures, we still have an ongoing cost associated with the lodge just being there. We have a variety of utility costs we must continue to pay, and then, as well as insurance costs. With no income to cover these costs, our financial resources are being severely stretched, as I had mentioned before. For a not-for-profit operation, we find ourselves in a very sticky situation. We're not just a private club, we're a fraternal organization dedicated to helping the very young, the very old in our community. We have a medical equipment program which we give out to the public for every member of the public. It's not just for members of our lodges, for any member of the public. I don't have access to do that now, so I've got medical equipment that people cannot use. We Moose members, there's approximately 800 of us, and we all request respectfully that you guys do whatever you can to get us open up as soon as possible. We need to get in our lodge. We need to start earning money so we can give it back to the high school kids. We send kids to science camp, space camp for free. Kids that are underprivileged that can't afford that or their families can't afford it, we foot the bill. And I hate to see these kids and our seniors in our community suffer. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Bill Kislingberry. I am the administrator of the Ebbets Pass Moose Lodge. As our governor has kind of explained our financial situation to you, the loss of revenue, I want to talk about our help to the community. And by community, I don't mean Arnold. I mean all of Calaveras County. We do touch every one of the districts in one way or another. And I have a list, a big list. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to pass this on to you, of some of those. But the services and functions that we provide, other than financial, are substantial. We provide a service that we call safe surfing, which is helping children on the internet, helping children fight predators. And part of this is called an identification program, where we will go to different functions, set up a computer, and we actually create CD discs that we give to parents that have pictures, fingerprints, information for children and seniors. And we give those to the parent or guardian for them to use to give to any authority that would need it to help find a missing child or a missing senior. That's free. We pay for everything. They walk away with a disc that they can have. Another service that we provide is, as he mentioned, is our lodge is open for emergency services for the Red Cross, for storms and for fires. We've assisted utilities, tree trimmers, PG&E, everybody from out of the county come up and get a meal, get a cot to lay down on. So we do provide that kind of a thing. In the areas other than Arnold, we support in Angels Camp, Bret Harte High School, football boosters, the swim team, the soccer team, the boosters. In Adville, the Children's Repertory Theater, Lavender Ridge Vineyard. In West Point Elementary School, we support their camp for their kids, ones that can't afford it. Along with Mount Oaks High School in San Andreas, Railroad Flat High School with 6th grade science camps. And it's those types of programs that we work with. And we've never turned down a child's direct request for help in anything that they want to do. So thank you very much. Thank you, Bill.
Jack Kuhn, Junior Governor at the Loyal Order of the Moose. I wanted to discuss the other area that we provide support for the entire county, and that is scholarship funds that we're going to give out tomorrow night. They include 3 to Vallecito, 2 to Copperopolis, 1 to Angels Camp, 1 to Murphy's, and 1 to Arnold. These 8 children, young adults, will be recipients of $500 scholarships provided by the Moose. I don't want to have to be the one that tells the class of 2018 that they won't get those scholarships. But it's going to be very difficult for us to meet those needs if we don't have access to the lodge to raise funds for those scholarships and the other programs they've talked about today. It's very important that we get back to the lodge as swiftly as possible to start our fundraising efforts. It's already been 4 months that we've been out of there. We've lost a lot of money, but we still want to support the entire county with our fundraising activities. Please, buy the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good afternoon. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association, and we concur with the previous speakers. There's two things that that are not mentioned. One is, what's the lifespan of this temporary bridge? If it's well engineered and the abutments are made from concrete, that could last a long time. Maybe 20 years, 50 years, and it'll be wide, be durable. Maybe you have to use the word temporary because of the amount of bureaucracy you have to go through otherwise, but there might be some light at the end of the tunnel with this stuff. Also, I don't know if you picked up, when our Director of Public Works mentioned what you have to go through to build practically anything. Almost 3 years. I think he said 32, 34 months. That's almost an atrocity. Talk about draining the swamp. This might be a good place to start the process of bringing reason into the public works process when it comes to engineering. Perhaps you can contact the CSAC and maybe other organizations. Maybe also the Director of Public Works may have some ideas on ways that bureaucracy could be reduced or in some cases eliminated. But anyway, there's only so much time you have, and certainly there's only so much money. But to do nothing is to continue the existing situation. Why not take a few steps to see if you can reduce the bureaucracy involved with this? And then also plainly putting this bridge in is the economic well-being of our county and a benefit to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Metzger.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Joel Metzger, and I'm here on behalf of Calaveras County Water District. I appreciate all the comments from the community members and from Bertha Underhill, our director, about the asset that this bridge is to this community. And I think it's clear that it would be a huge blow if we weren't able to get some sort of a temporary solution in as soon as possible. And I'm here to urge you on behalf of CCWD to find a way to put this temporary bridge in. I also wanted to make sure the board understood that from CCWD's perspective, we do have some very vital assets behind this bridge, which is why we put the one-lane bridge in very soon after the storm damage. One of those assets is our main maintenance facility for the entire Highway 4 upper corridor from Forest Meadows all the way up to Dorrington area. We cannot move our large trucks back and forth from this on this bridge unless it's in an emergency. And our own access has been severely limited because for the safety of our own staff, we try not to go over this if we can avoid it. The second main asset I wanted you to know about is the Sawmill water tank, which is a 3 million gallon water tank. It's the largest in the county. It sits on a hill above White Pines, and the only access is through this bridge. And we need to be able to access that in the case of an emergency and bring whatever resources that we need to get up to that tank. And so those two things, along with the management of White Pines and the Blagan Mill Pond above White Pines, are all critical. And so we are getting by, but it's not an ideal situation, and it's not a safe situation for our current employees. And so we do ask that the board take a look at all options. And I also want to let you know that CCWD wants to be a partner in this in a supportive role or consider other options if the board is going to make an ask of us. We want to be a good partner. We want to work together with this board in order to make this a positive result quickly for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Chris Lestingay, and I'm the senior regent for the Women of the Moose in Arnold. Along with the men, we also do a lot of community service for the community and help out a lot. This year, we actually have a Christmas party for the children every year and an Easter party for the children every year. We weren't able to do our Easter party this year, and it was a great disappointment to a lot of people. At this Easter party, we give out 6 bicycles to 3 different age groups and a lot of baskets, and just let the kids have Easter egg hunts and fun. So it was really sad that we couldn't do that this year. Along with the men, we also do a lot of fundraising for the schools and local areas. We support the science camps. We support the Washington, D.C. trips. We give money to PAWS. We give money to hospice. We adopt classes in the elementary schools and the middle schools and support them throughout the year. Also, at the end of the year, we hold a large Christmas party for the children, where again, we let them play games, make cookies, and it's just a fun thing. The kids get a kick out of it. They see Santa. And then we also have a food basket program that we give out to people in need. We also purchase gift certificates from the local stores to give to people at Christmas time. We have a lady that actually makes lap blankets for people for during the holidays. So along with the men, I urge you, please, please, let us get back in there, especially in the summer months. We have a chili cook-off and a car show that we do. It's a big fundraiser. We also do a white elephant sale, which is a big fundraiser. So if we miss our lodge, and we miss the camaraderie of our lodge, and we'd like to get back in there and start giving back to the community again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dan Lurie, Moose Lodge, and also Board of Director for Evans Pass Fire. I know the bridge is going to cost a lot of money. You know, it's not chump change. But it's an asset. It's an asset to the county. And if you look at it, and with that investment, you can use that investment over and over again. As Jeff pointed out, we're going to have more winters like we had. And with your investment in it, you can use that. And if you look at the total amount of money on that investment that's going to repay you, I think it's going to be worthwhile. As you heard, everybody up here and up on that corridor needs that bridge in because the county's going to lose money. And I don't think the county's in the business of losing money. So I urge you, please, vote for the bridge. You can use it over again, and it'll be a well-invested item. Thank you.
I watched the Butte Fire start from Burson. I can look up the canyon, the McCalmy River Canyon, and because of seconds of trying to decide which side of the river was going to determine who was going to be in charge of the putting out the fire. While that was going on, I was watching one airplane go in and drop their red stuff. And then I noticed some spot fires starting up, and I'm going, come on, you know, and it didn't happen. I didn't see any more airplanes come. And from my side of things. And time is of the essence. A bridge like this is mandatory immediately because the fire season is here. And I know you guys are going to do that bridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Wilson, District 1. I'm one of those people that plan to go up country and visit these lakes this summer. I want to take my granddaughter up there. She lives in the city right now, and I want her to have the balance of enjoying the trees and the golden hills of California. This sounds like something that we need, not only for our youth and our seniors and the services and volunteers that these gentlemen and these ladies provide, but we need it. We need it for the health of our people. We need it for the health of our economy. And hopefully, bringing in that money from tourists. And hopefully with Measure C tax money coming in, you can find a way to fund this. I think it's important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing no takers, we'll bring it back to the board for comment, questions.
Yeah, I'd like to start off this whole discussion so that everybody can paint a picture of what really is going on here. And that is that when we set our budget last year, of course, this board was not here except for you, Supervisor Oliveira, so you understand. That was based upon the preliminary needs that were assessed at that time. Our OES recovery efforts, without running down a rabbit hole on all of that discussion, is really where this whole thing should be going. And that the OES recovery process for many of the roads and post-Butte fire and all of the other stuff is a whole separate issue from our county budget. And we should be looking at these two as two separate financial efforts and two separate issues. So we literally have dumped onto Public Works, not just the Butte fire and the recovery from the Butte fire, but we've also dumped on them tree mortality. We've dumped on them this road recovery work, and all of this is really OES. It's recovery issues. They're not. We still have our basic services that we need to provide to our county, and if we get derailed in additional work that's being done by our county departments, then they really aren't going to get anything done. And it creates these additional delays, not only in providing essential services and emergencies, but it also delays recovery processes as well. So I'm thinking even in my own district, the number of roads that are damaged. I mean, I recently took the opportunity to drive down to O'Byrne's Ferry Road from Copper Cove Drive down to the lake, and I was playing dodgeball with potholes. And it's the same thing on Little John Road. I mean, I have just as much damage in my district, I'm certain, as any of the other districts. And so I'm concerned about diverting funding from basic services to be involved in this way. I would like to see CCWD to be asked to be involved in this temporary bridge situation. Maybe they can look at loaning the money necessary to do this and get it done more rapidly. And then we can look at next year's budget and say this is where we can allocate some money to do that, rather than trying to encumber road and bridge funds that are already encumbered from the existing budget. So I understand all those high country roads. It's really difficult for even the federal government to ascertain how many of those roads are going to be passable for this summer. But every area of this county has problems, and I commend the volunteers in the Ebbets Pass area for the work that you do up there. It is sometimes you're not thanked often enough for what you do. But at the same time, we have to look at this from a county as a whole. I'm thinking of Supervisor Garamendi's district and the amount of road damage that he has over there, and the challenges of getting around this county in many, many areas, that if we focus on just this one situation to the detriment to all the other situations, it is not going to lead to a good result. So I would like to ask the CCWD board if they would assist us in getting some kind of funding put together, and maybe they have the expertise to get this temporary bridge in there, and then we can talk about how we're going to allocate this into next year's budget. And that would be my take on it.
Supervisor Clapp, you have a comment?
Yeah, I pretty well agree with Dennis and stuff. I mean, my district is like a bastard child. I mean, I don't even have transit to my place. I mean, if you look at every district, you have transit. I don't. they didn't even spray weeds on I was out mowing the road last week, and so was one of my neighbors about 3 houses down. Public Works is absent in my district. I get nothing. And I do have a lake at my place. I'm probably the wealthiest district in the county. We pay probably 30% of the budget, and I get nothing. Nothing. And it's hard for me to keep my district from not turning into a town. I mean, we want to incorporate because we're getting nothing from the county. I mean, nothing. And, you know, I sympathize with these people, but mine's is a man-made disaster at mine. I mean, I have Olive Orchard Road that they can't send a tanker down. They have to send it through Valley Springs if there's a fire in person. So I understand what everyone's saying, but I asked for Title 17 to be updated. Nothing. I asked for a traffic ordinance in my neighborhoods. I'm heavy, dense neighborhoods. Nothing. I'm not even asking for money. I can't get anything. And then, you know, and I like to help everybody, but, you know, I'm part of Calaveras County too. District 5 is there. And we're paying a lot of money, and we're getting none of it back. We pay more in than we get to our district. And something has to give. And I hate to be using it as like a blackmail, but I mean, when was the last time there was even on the chair of this board from District 5? It's been 10 years or so. District 5 is not represented by this board, by this county. I mean, most of the problems that came to District 5 has been made by the board, previous boards. And it has to quit. I need something in my district. I need my roads fixed. I need at least have the weed sprayed. So I'm real upset. I'm real upset.
Any other further comment?
I do have some comments, I have some questions too. Jeff, you want to come up? I don't see any representative from SBI here. Nobody spoke on their behalf. My question is, do you have any idea how often or how much SBI uses this particular access to their properties back there?
In a normal year, they have a lot of access. This is not a normal year. I have attended the first several and the last several tree mortality meetings, and SPI is at the seat on all of them. Their take right now is that they cannot get to their forest lands in the upcountry because of snow and road damages. So they are looking hard, and they've already sawed up everything they've had in their mills, yet the demand is still here. So right now, SPI is looking for material for their lumber mills. I haven't spoken to them specifically about access via Blagan Road to their lands to know. So all I can report on is what they have been reporting on as part of task force.
Okay, Supervisor Tofinelli. I've been attempting to contact SBI, and we've been playing phone tag, if you will, to personally advise them of our situation. And we haven't had the opportunity to have that conversation as late as last night and this morning. Once I make that contact, I'll have that information.
Can you contact me on that?
Once I make that contact, I will make that information available to the board.
Okay. I have a couple other questions. You have costs here on our board packet. And you have one bridge, the Crow, at $91,500, and you have the Maybe at $66,900. Which bridge was it that you were looking at purchasing?
I would prefer the Acro for a number of reasons. Reason number one, they have a manufacturing plant in Oakland, California, so that our trucking costs are lower. Their bridge also comes with a treated deck, so it's an anti-skid deck. The Maybe Bridge does not, it's a plain steel deck. So we will have to come in and do an overlay on the Maybe deck to be able to provide traction for vehicles and pedestrians. The, those are the main reasons. Both of these bids include 3 to 4 days of an expert from each of the manufacturers to be on site while we're assembling and launching this bridge. And both of the estimates were for a purchasable bridge. They both lease bridges for less money, but it's not significantly less. It's approximately 2/3 of the prices shown here for a 30-month duration, which is what I was calculating. Once I saw that at a 30-month duration, we were within 25% of the cost of purchase, I opted for the purchase. The purchase bridges are also manufactured to be stronger because it essentially reduces the liability on the part of the bridge manufacturer in their engineering. So I hope I've clarified what that is. Both these prices would be freight on board, delivered to the site.
What's the cost of the overlay that you spoke of for the Maybe?
I built that in. If you look on the, I don't know what it is because I don't see your board packets.
Well, I don't see it anywhere on here. I mean, we are talking about dollars and cents here because I understand the concerns of the other district supervisors, and I have concerns in my district also of storm damage and repairs of roads. I've had conversations with you, so I understand exactly their stance. And we are looking at cost estimates to get this open, and I'm looking at roughly $6,000, $25,000 difference in the cost of the bridges.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do have some other questions about, you have the descriptions of crane rental and equipment rental and so forth. I'm assuming that once this temporary bridge is no longer needed because the permanent bridge is finished 3 years from now, 5 years from now, or whatever, we'd have to go through this same process to remove that bridge, rent a crane, equipment, so forth, load it on a truck, pay for delivery to wherever we're going to store it. So there's an additional cost 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, that would be associated with this bridge, and then again, the same cost if it's utilized somewhere else in the future.
That's partially true. I do want to answer your first question. If you look on table 3, item 6, which was the hot mix asphalt item, 75 tons for $12,000. Approximately 2 tons of that item would be for the overlay on the Maybe bridge, to give an asphalt overlay on the Maybe bridge, which wouldn't be necessarily on the Acro bridge. Going back to the costs that are related to this, I tried to cost this as conservatively as possible. So I assumed that we assembled the entire bridge essentially with the overlay in place and then picked it up with a single crane. In reality, this one would be assembled on the approach roadway without the deck. And there is a high likelihood that we could launch it just with the use of a long reach excavator, which is significantly less expensive. The long reach excavator costs are already built into the items for cleanup, excavation, demolition removal, compaction of backfill behind abutments and things like that. So the disassembly part of this, I think, will not be as expensive. I think it will be less expensive. And the other thing that I want to mention is if we place a bridge, the bridge would be placed on top of the AC. It would sit, depending on which bridges I'm directed to, if we go with a bridge option, either 19 inches above grade or 22 inches above grade. So that's the approach roadway that we have to build up. My plan for the buildup of that is to purchase K-rail, set the K-rail, fill the opening with AB, and then pave over the top of it. So we have a smooth transition.
Well, that's what I assumed item number 6 was for, and
Yes.
not the overlay of the bridge itself that you talked about.
I
for the major bridge.
included the hot mix asphalt volumes as if I was doing the maybe bridge, because that would be more expensive than the Acro Bridge. Okay? That's all.
Okay, because it's not the way it's written, but I understand what you're saying now.
I went for the most conservative every line item I could. Okay? In terms of the bridge cost, the K-rails would be reusable in other conditions. The AB would be reusable, again, in other conditions. That was another reason why I recommended and brought to the board as my primary solution a temporary bridge. It has a lower environmental overhead in terms of permits required for us to get, either prior to or immediately after opening the road. And also I have more reuse of materials than I would with a culvert solution, because all the material I put into the riparian environment, into the waterway, I'm not going to be able to reuse again. By the time it's time to take it out, that stuff is going to be polluted for a structural road section. So, hope that answers your question. I'm not married to either of these manufacturers. I've done both. I've done more maybes than I have done acros. I've only done 1 acro and 5 maybes. Can I say that?
I'm looking at several other items on this list.
Okay.
Table 3. I'm looking at the testing inspection. I'm assuming that's from an outside lab?
Yes.
It is?
Yes. Yes, that would be an outside lab for compaction of the AB and compaction and temperature on the AC.
Is there an inspection that we will do once the bridge is assembled and put in place to verify?
My intent is that we will have several road crew people there during the assembly and the launching of the bridge, and then we'll use our Public Works inspector during the placement of the AB, the temporary approach roadways. And we will track those costs as hopefully part of our match.
You spoke earlier about these bridges as being truss bridges, made up of independent trusses that you put together to however long you want. And I have a question here about if we have another major event in the 30 to 34 months or 4 years, whatever, to the permanent bridges in. I'm just visioning these trusses in the waterway and their impact to allowing the water to flow through them and not maybe washing the temporary bridge away because of the amount of trusses and material there in the path.
Speaking to that I do not think that will be a problem at Blagan. The reason being is I was up there during the heaviest event where we actually overtopped the approach roadway on the east side of the crossing. And so once the creek bank was overwhelmed, rather than overtopping the temporary bridge that CCWD placed, it overtopped the roadway for about 250 feet to the east because of the grade. Okay, so I do believe that even in the worst case scenario storm, this site will be flanked to the east and not impact with debris flows the bridge itself. But you are correct that these bridges can handle a little bit of that lateral loading with debris going up through the trusses. So if it was a single span of, this is right now what I'm suggesting is a 1-lane bridge, setting it alongside of the CCWD bridge. That would give us the ability when we go and replace whatever this crossing is, one of the two would be taken out. We'd do part of it. Once that was constructed, we'll put the traffic on it, remove the second temporary, build the second half to regain 2 lanes of traffic in a permanent situation. So this is part of the stage construction plan as well as it is a temporary fix. But yes, I do believe that this bridge could handle a little bit of overtopping flows.
And then I have a final question, and it had to do with SPI, and they're not having anybody in the room for us to talk to. I'm sure $200,000 to them is just not that big of a deal. And I know from Supervisor Oliveira, he's tried to contact them, and I'm curious about where they stand on being able to access, because obviously the snow is melting and they'll sooner or later need to access their land up there to conduct their business, and they are a for-profit business. As to whether we can attach some type of, since this is a temporary and we're paying for it, some type of a toll bridge for them to charge as their trucks go over it, either way, to recover some of our costs to help them in their for-profit business. I mean, it's just an idea to throw out there.
I'll discuss that with them.
Okay.
I'll try to make that phone call during the lunch period.
Okay.
I was in contact with Mr. Lester of SPI this morning via text messages while we were in closed session, so.
And finally, I'd like to say, again, that I understand the other supervisor's position. I'm in much the same position in my roads in my district. And I'd got some information from you yesterday on the expenditures on road maintenance and snow removal. There is no snow removal in my district. So those are costs that are not recoverable by us, our district, and other districts that are sitting here. And this area is part of that area for snow removal. So I have concerns about it, but then again, I also understand that we're up here representing the county as a whole and the concerns of the county as a whole, even though we have representation from each of our districts. And I would think that if this was in my district and I had a road or a bridge washed out and one of the items coming up next is Hogan Dam Road. Cosco Creek has been known to swell, and those bridges are there, and it would be a major artery into Hogan Lake, although you can go down Vista del Lago to access it. That the other supervisors, even though they had needs for their district, would understand that it is vital that we work as a whole together. And I think this is one project that, although I have my major concerns on it, and the money where it's coming from, although we just did get a $20,000 check this morning, that's not encumbered as of yet, it's a project that I think is viable to the county or vital to the county as a whole. So that's where I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. I, of course, have lots of questions. Certainly none of them are determined upon the deservingness of this project or the work that people are doing on behalf of the community. There is a bridge existing across it right now. If I understood correctly, CCWD put one up, right? And tell me how that's used. Is that open right now, or what's the situation with that temporary bridge?
And Joel can get up here and correct me if I'm wrong, but that bridge was a bridge that was constructed by and owned by a contractor, a construction contractor, heavy civil public works contractor, under contractor to CCWD for some major infrastructure replacement. That's been ongoing since the fall of 2016? Spring of 2016, and they've got another year to go. So it's essentially a contractor's bridge. It is not engineered, it is not rated, load rated, and so consequently they have a chain across it to prevent public access. CCWD has a key, their contractor has a key. I believe they've given access to the local fire department, and I believe they've given very limited access to the Moose Lodge. But right now, the contractor and CCWD are carrying the liability for its use. It's a single lane bridge. It's set on the pavement. I think there's enough room to set the bridge that I'm proposing alongside.
So that bridge does exist. It is functioning. Is there, other than the liability issue, which probably is significant, is there a problem with continuing it for the next 4 months?
Yes,
Opening it to the public?
I had a letter from the fire district saying that it's too narrow.
Chief, you mentioned that your expert drivers can cross that bridge, didn't you?
Yeah, just to recap, the bridge is approximately, this is my layman's interpretation with the tape measure, is 10 foot across, but that doesn't account for the construction of the actual handrail that's up above it. You know, that's inside of that 10 foot, if that makes sense. So you're dealing with or I guess it's about 10'5", and then they mount that on the inside. It essentially gives us a pathway of, you know, just under 10 feet, and our fire apparatus are, you know, about 8.5 feet for our standard unit, and our wire tender's a little bit bigger than that. So if you don't have two people, one to spot, one to drive, to navigate over the bridge, and our folks are familiar with the bridge, biggest challenge I see as being a fire chief is we rely on mutual aid, meaning the state. If it's our local folks from the state, that's one thing, but when we start bringing in outside folks that may not be familiar with, you know, trying to navigate over it or not have a key to get in there and things like that, or even the adjacent fire district in the middle of the night trying to come onto it. If we had any kind of mishap there, that's it. You know, we're going to be, that apparatus is going to be stuck on there. So hopefully that answers your
Right, so you can cross the bridge. You don't send out an apparatus with a single driver. So you need someone, so a team can do it. There is a risk about mutual aid and people not familiar with it.
It is, yeah. It's definitely not optimum, and it is delayed to get in there. And I certainly believe it's just a numbers game. You know, you do it enough times, something at some point will happen. I'm just not sure when that'll be.
How many calls do you go out to there in the summer?
You know, depending on if you include the state calls, if you include, you know, just emergency calls, the Forest Service calls, all that area up in there, I could run the actual data and give it to you, including all those pieces. But you know, we're looking at summertime. People can access a portion of the lake, and therefore they're going to access on foot or however they need to for the other part and recreate there. So we do have training to go out there and rescue people that, you know, go under or witness, you know, go under the water. So the quicker we can get to those spots, as close to where they're witnessed to possibly go down in a potential drowning or a medical call, the closer we can get there, the faster, the better the outcome. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. There's one piece that I wish we could answer here today would be the state and their transports for their dozer equipment. I'm not 100% confident at the width of that low boy with a bulldozer on the back.
But there's an alternate route that's 15 minutes around the other side, right? So if you're bringing in a low boy with a dozer, it's a few more minutes, but it's not like a drowning call.
Right.
Where you have to be there on the spot. We know when a fire is generally coming.
It's
By the time the
possible,
low boys
yeah.
get there, it's been a couple hours.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. The next one is CCWD. Why can't we figure out a way to let the Moose Lodge use your bridge? Bertha or Joel?
Good morning, Joel with Calaveras County Water District. We have consulted with our legal counsel, and with the current bridge not being rated, belonging to a contractor, the liability concerns were way beyond what we were willing to take on. So with the current bridge, there's just no way that we would be able to take that liability on.
Is there any chance the Moose Lodge can buy a supplemental insurance policy to get their business going and cover you guys? Some sort of umbrella?
It's not something that we've discussed with them. So you'd have to ask them, and we would have to have our legal counsel look at it as well. But again, the status of the current bridge, we don't even like our own people going across it because it is a very temporary fix and was not intended to be a long-term solution.
I understand. You know, my main concern, thank you, Joel. My main concern is really the optics of this whole thing. As some of the other supervisors pointed out, we are going to go through probably in the next 30 days, a discussion about our budget that may include layoffs of people. $200,000 is 2 road crew members for a year. And also, I worry about precedent a bit. As we mentioned, we're talking about who gets what instead of looking at a general fund conversation. I wonder if, the West Point Lions Club's going to come down here and want their building redone because it's not very safe and needs ADA access. So these are not deal killers, but they're things that we need to recognize as a board as we move forward. I'm sorry that we weren't able to figure out a way to use that 1-lane existing bridge. I recognize that's 1 lane, but if we ran 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and had a flag person there at $15 an hour, it cost us $15,000 to run through September. I'm sorry that that's not an option because sometimes the easy solution is the solution. I have no further questions, though.
Thank you, Supervisor Garamendi. I've got questions of Mr. Crovus. Mr. Crovus, have you searched actually our area for a local manufacturer for this bridge?
Yes, I spoke with Distinctive Metals. They have a fabrication plant near the fairgrounds. They do custom structures. They're the ones that did the structural bridge for the new medical center down in Tuolumne County. It's a bridge between buildings. And they indeed could construct us a temporary bridge that met the, not the specifications, but met the measurement requirements that I have provided in the staff report. And its cost would have been competitive with the costs that are provided here. However, they could not manufacture the bridge without engineering such that the bridge itself would be then a rated structure, a load rated structure. Do you understand what I mean by that?
I do understand. So there would be a certification on that bridge.
There would have to be a certification, and the duration to get that done, to get the engineering done, the detailing done, so that they had a detailed set of plans from which to fabricate, would be months, as opposed to days or weeks. I actually threw them out of the running for a temporary structure. The second problem is that if it ends up being, and right now I'm looking at a 50-foot structure plus or minus, depending upon the selection of the manufacturer, that would be difficult to load and transport. So you wouldn't be able to load it onto a flatbed with forks on a backhoe or a forklift. You would end up having to lift the entire bridge up, load it on a truck, get your permits because of its length, and then haul it and then store it, as opposed to it being stacked up like erector set toys. So it didn't meet what I thought would be the criteria for a temporary bridge that could be reused again and again with flexibility for loading, span, and width.
What's the lifespan of your selected choices of those bridges?
Well, Bailey, who initially essentially pioneered this technology, is still selling bridges that they fabricated during World War II. But they are running out of stock, and Bailey is almost out of business. At least they don't have the same presence they had during World War II and the 30 years or so after that. I don't know. The ones that I've installed, 2 for the Forest Service, they're galvanized structures. They're heavily galvanized. They're heavy structural steel. They're generally made out of 36,000 or 46,000 KSI metals. Supervisor Tofanelli knows what I'm talking about. And so they're high strength. They're high strength. Above 50, okay. I thought the 46,000 was high strength as well, but okay. And all the materials that are used are galvanized and meant to be deployed outside for long periods of time. And indeed, as I believe it was Supervisor Mills suggested, why not use this as a permanent structure? It could be a permanent structure. As I said, the one that I did over the Plumas River, which was about a 160-foot span, 1-lane bridge, We mounted that up on crane mats, which are large wooden timbers that stack up. They were stacked about 8 foot high on each side of the bridge, and we built approach roadways up to it and ran it all summer, and then built the abutments out from under it in the fall after the camp. It was a large soccer camp. We built the abutments after the summer season. So that could be an option, that this could be a permanent structure at this location or another location, say for example the Murphy's Road site. That is an option. However, I think that given the nature of the county infrastructure and some of our public utilities infrastructure in the county, it would be wise to have a temporary bridge within our inventory that's available for us to deploy within days.
Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. Would you estimate this bridge lifespan to be 20 plus years?
Oh yes, easily.
Okay. And you mentioned and we discussed that the rental or lease of a bridge of this magnitude or design would be approximately 2/3 the cost of a bridge?
That was for a 30-month deployment.
Okay.
Once you go to a 36-month deployment or a little beyond, there's no difference in cost.
All right. So if we could accomplish this feat, we could actually make this bridge, when not in use by Calaveras County, available to other counties or utilities for lease?
Absolutely. And in fact, during the storm events of 2017, I received a call from Public Works Director at Tuolumne County. And she had asked if I knew or if I had temporary bridges available. And I directed her up to Plumas and Solano County, as well as to the two manufactured I had already been in contact with.
Okay. And we haven't been denied by FEMA, have we?
No, we haven't.
And we haven't been denied by OES?
No, sir.
We just haven't been given a go-ahead, is that correct?
Again, the programs are reimbursement programs. And so us asking them for permission prior is not in their vernacular.
Okay. So there's still light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully it's not a train.
I think the most important part of this entire thing is the records and the documentation that we have. So going through with the resolution adding specifically this site, the fact that we're having a public hearing on this, to continue the declaration and to respond to what we consider to be a continued state of emergency. I think that we are laying the proper groundwork. And I also believe that with our partners up here testifying, both social and service providers, we are laying the groundwork that this indeed is an emergency situation that should be reimbursable. Now,
I'm going to make that fatal statement of the word assume. If we can assume that reimbursement will be coming from OES and FEMA, will there be a 6.5% match fund, if you will?
6.25%.
6.25%?
Yes.
And I'm kind of wondering if there's any participation from our partners, our communities, to assist with that.
We could certainly ask, but again, I cannot answer.
I understand, but that's something that we could look at.
Absolutely.
I have no further questions.
Just one follow-up, Jeff. Assets and liabilities. The bridge in Solano, the numbers we had seen before for leasing of bridges from the manufacturer. Have we contacted Plumas or Solano to see if they've got a bridge available?
Plumas actually hasn't got a bridge available yet because they are waiting to generate funding enough to go through an HPP project that I was a designer on.
So they have the bridge or they don't have a bridge?
I think I don't know yet. I don't know.
Solano?
Solano County, when I did this with them, that was in the mid-90s, they chose to go with the rental option and did not purchase.
So they decided, I'm just concerned. I always think in terms of assets and liabilities. Assets generate income or increase in value over the time. Liabilities sit in a lot behind the house. I've got both. So I just want to make sure that we're sober when we talk about that we're going to reuse this in other places, or we could lease it out, if that's reality or not. Do you have any examples of counties that have leased it out and made revenue from it?
The only way that I can provide you with a revenue story is that if the county owns the asset and they have a project that's federally funded or state funded or some combination of external funding that requires the use of the asset, then they could supplement what it would cost to rent the or construct the temporary bridge against their ownership. So, for example, the whole reason that I went through the scenario with Plumas County and they were to get two bridges is that they're essentially separated by a mountain range that they can't always cross in the winter. So their desire was to have one of these bridges on the east side of the range, one of these bridges on the west side of the range. So they had the ability to respond to an emergency at either place, not having to drive 7 to 8 hours around and truck a bridge around a mountain range where they could get a crossing, say, of Interstate 80.
But that's still in the planning. They don't possess this.
And again, I can't speak to it. The bridge that I designed, that we had identified the cost for a temporary bridge, got pushed. The second project they were doing the same thing with, I thought they had moved ahead with, but I don't know. I haven't spoken to their deputy.
Do we have any counties that we know that have purchased these?
Yes, but I'll have to research that. Again, I've forgotten since
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying let's not tell ourselves we're going to make money on the steel. It could sit for 20 years at that site or out here in the yard.
It could, right. Absolutely.
So it's not.
But one can't plan emergencies.
No.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, sir.
Jeff, there's another item coming up shortly on Hogan Dam Road Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, like you mentioned earlier, I think you alluded to, that we have a tremendous amount of bridges in this county. And this bridge, the way it's constructed, to which you explained, although the maximum length we are purchasing is 50 feet, if we need to do work such on Hogan Dam Road bridges and need to shut the bridge down during the work being processed, we could utilize this bridge ourselves to the length that we need for a bypass to not shut down traffic while we're doing the work on these bridges within our county. Is that correct? Is that your vision of what?
That's absolutely correct. And what I was trying to explain is that the value for that temporary bridge, it's going to have a value. It's either a construct in place with certification, or it's a purchase of a temporary bridge and deploy it, set it up, and then take it down and send it back from a rental situation. That's the value that the local agency can recap from that project. And yes, we have 14 more bridge projects in front of us in the next 3 to 5 years.
And we had 40, several years ago, we had 40 identified that need either replacement or major work.
Yeah, I think the number is much higher. It would be much easier for me to count the number of bridges that actually meet current standards than it would be to count the bridges that don't meet current standards or minor structures that don't.
So over the 20-year span that we're talking about, it may go back or whatever, the high probability of it being used or utilized during our work on our bridges when we get to those points as a temporary pass so we don't block traffic off is a very high probability. Is that correct?
It's a very high probability. Okay. And one of the most difficult scenarios that I've been facing with recovery in the Butte Fire is that putting multiple contractors out on these roads at the same time is an impossible scenario because we can't call an emergency services response when you can't get through. And if I have two contracts, one doing road repair and one removing trees, dead trees, I know that I'm going to be faced with a delay claim from one contractor that says, hey, I can't get to my work site because you got another contractor in my way. You've been there before. So where we have these very, very narrow crossings, this is a legitimate solution. And the big difference between, again, the two pre-manufactured bridges that I brought you is that one is working on a 9-foot, 8-inch repeatable segment, and the other one is a 10-foot, 3-inch repeatable segment. So we're buying a bridge in increments of 1 lane, 2 lane, 3 lane, 4 lane width, and then spans that go all the way up to I've seen these things go up to a 300-foot span.
So in the future, at the 50-foot we're purchasing, it's within our capability to, if we needed a 100-foot span, to purchase another 50 feet and connect it.
Yeah, the big issue is that we can't mix the bridge parts from the manufacturers. Once we bought a bridge, we're locked into that manufacturer. Or we say, well, we need two bridges. We'll have one for A and one for B.
Thank you.
And then I do want to bring up to you that Maybe is manufacturing their bridges in England, and Acro's manufacturing their bridges in the United States. So, but in an emergency scenario, FEMA has an exemption for emergencies that you don't have to buy America. So that was an initial concern of mine, and thinking that was going to throw Maybe out of the equation. But once I saw the rulemaking in the federal circular, I determined that both would be available.
Any further questions of Mr. Clovis?
Well, I got to go back to the funding sources here. If we're going to be pulling funds towards the end of the budget cycle here from your road funds, it doesn't say anything about the financing alternatives in the document that you gave us on the agenda packet. So that seems to be kind of an open-ended, where exactly are we going to derive this from? If we're looking for partnerships to help us in the short term to get this accomplished, or how else we're going to do it, that should be part of this discussion. I'm also concerned in taking Public Works employees and diverting them to this project, which also then is an overlay on OES, because this in essence is a FEMA project here that we're using our people for, which we should be in essence subcontracting that work under FEMA.
I couldn't agree with you more, Supervisor Mills. However, the infrastructure that you envision in terms of an OES recovery division, as it were, to be able to respond to disasters doesn't exist. And the skill set for this work falls to Public Works, because it's the type of heavy civil works that we do. And you're right, it absolutely is difficult, and it's not fair, because we can't get our own mission done, let alone do recovery mission at the same time.
And I want to break in there, because it's exactly the point, and that's running down that rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down.
Right.
But that is the crux of why a lot of these projects continue to be delayed, and it's not your inability to perform, it's just simply there's so much of it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is putting a stressor on your budget to accomplish these tasks, and this is just one more stressor, and I'm just asking that we consider other financing sources here, if we have them available to us in the short term, at least to get us through to next year's fiscal budget.
Well, and that to me is the issue. However, this is either an emergency or it's not an emergency, and I'm not trying to be flip about this at all. I wouldn't be here, and this has got to be my 5th report on Blagan in front of this board this year alone. I wouldn't be here if in the measurement of what I do as your Public Works Director, I didn't see this as an emergency situation. So I essentially went for the first available immediate source of funds with which to respond to an emergency scenario. I am still hopeful that through the current budget cycle and the current budget process, this fund will be repaid. Otherwise, all districts will suffer later in 2018, without a doubt. So I can only, the only thing that I can say is that all indicators are that this is an emergency location. This is the response to a state and federally declared emergency. This is the highest emergency, the highest project site that I've asked FEMA to respond to, and they have responded to quickly. From the kickoff meeting that we had 2 weeks ago to their inspection of the first 3 sites up in the Arnold area last week, and they are out in the field today and 2 more sites on Hoover and Gwen Mine, to the next highest order of criteria based on cost alone. They're responding as quickly as they can. But again, their initial mission is to replace the damage to infrastructure as it was the day before the event. And so their first order of work is to determine what was there the day before the event and how much it would cost to replace it in kind. To replace it with something different or better able to handle a flood of the size that we had will require a mitigation grant on top of that funding. And so that process hasn't even kicked into place. I discovered that really, that's when I saw the future, that this future did not look good, and I notified Supervisor Oliveira of that last week. And so we put this package together to get on board agenda as quickly as we could. So it really does warrant the time to be able to talk about the optics and the funding that we have to talk about anyway as we go through this budget cycle. So the one thing that I would say is, if we hold this item while waiting for other agencies to respond, for example, putting an agenda item in front of the CCWD board, we delay recovery, or at least temporary recovery, of this crossing.
If I may add,
Go right ahead.
As Mr. Krovitz alluded to, this did come about last week fairly quickly, and I recognize the alternative funding sources should have been fleshed out in more detail in the agenda item. In addition to the road fund, certainly we could tap into general fund contingencies. That sets us for close to have a little more impact rolling into next year, which was why that wasn't offered as the first option. An additional option would certainly be looking at the Teeter Fund and using funds from Teeter. Any type of capital asset fund that we could tap into and utilize those funds. The way I see it, we could, if that would be more palatable to the board, we could modify that resolution at lunch, also bring back an adjustment to utilize those funds. That would require, because now we're moving from funds, a 4/5 vote of the board as opposed to the current proposal that does require a majority.
So this issue right now requires a majority, and the funding is optional at the suggestion that you've just made. Do we need to modify the resolution?
That would be the question for the board, is if we do not want to use the road fund as currently laid out in the agenda, and instead a different fund such as Teeter or other capital fund to actually do this purchase, then it would require a 4/5 vote, and we would have to modify the resolution.
And Chair, to that point, that is exactly what I was talking about, is this is a capital project. And so for that reason, I would like to see it modified so that we do require a 4/5 vote. And in doing so, I think it takes the stress off of the road funds and what I was really concerned about. So if we could get that done, that would be appreciated.
Suggestion noted. I have just one comment before we bring this to the board. I want to say how proud I am of my constituents. I'm going to brag about our district. But I understand exactly what our situation is. Having said that, I understand the rest of the situations in the remaining districts. We need this bridge. To that extent, I would entertain a motion to...
I like to, I don't know why the big rush is. I mean, I heard what Jeff says, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, please, please.
I guess you're trying to insult me first. What I'd like to do is, I don't know why we're not putting this in front of CCW so we see what kind of help we're getting from them. Because right now, we're just taking the whole load on us, and there's no incentive for them to jump in. I mean, because once we commit, and I would be more comfortable making a vote, and I know exactly what I'm voting I mean, I don't think that's asking too much to just put it off to that, because I still have roads in my district that I can't send fire tenders down. So so my district doesn't deserve anything, and I'm not asking your district to take anything less than mine takes right now, but I would be willing to help, but I like to just know what I'm voting on. I mean, we're sitting there voting on something that maybe CCW might help this or not, but I'd like to at least know exactly what we're voting on. And I don't know why we can't check and stuff during lunch, like you said, you're gonna check with the forest department and come back after lunch and then be at least a little more intelligent on what we're voting on.
Comment noted. Supervisor Clapp, you have a comment, Supervisor Mills?
I would just like to frame the motion to adopt the resolution as it is, with the funding source identified as being capital improvement and not from the road fund, and that allow the staff the opportunity to create that funding mechanism so it's clearly identified in here as capital improvement.
May I suggest, Mr. Chair, that we take lunch break and come back and let staff bring back to us a change in this ordinance, identifying several financial options to us. So when we make the motion, we can identify how we want to address it. And then we know what we're voting on. In the meantime, you thought you'd be able to get a hold of SBI so we can address Supervisor Clapp's concerns. And CCWD is here. Perhaps we can have a conversation during that time with them and how we can present to their board so they can be involved. Obviously, Mr. Metzger had said that they want to be a partner in this. I would suggest we table this, go to lunch, come back, and readdress it.
Allow me to withdraw my motion first. Withdraw.
Staff, can you complete any modifications by the time we return at 1:30? 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Usually the lunch break is an hour and a half.
Okay, we'll give you a break. 2 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to return. We're adjourned for lunch.